Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 19th Planning Commission meeting. The time is now 6:31, and I call this meeting to order. If you could rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And if the secretary could please call roll.
Commissioner Booth,
Here.
Commissioner Broadus,
Present.
Commissioner Hemphill, Commissioner Leaf,
Here.
Commissioner Schatz,
Here.
Vice Chair Dreckman,
Here.
Chair Sowish.
Live from Town Hall.
You have a quorum.
We have an agenda before us. Are there any changes? Okay. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Second.
That was a motion from Vice Chair Dreckman and a second from
Broadus.
Broadus. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, that is unanimous. We now have the approval of the minutes for the July 15th Planning Commission meeting. Are there any changes? May I have a motion?
So moved. Broadus.
Second, Dreckman.
That is a motion from Commissioner Broadus and a second from Vice Chair Dreckman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right. That leads us now to the public comment portion. These are for items that are non-agenda items. So I know we have public hearing that's on there. Are there any individuals that are signed up for general public comment?
We have 14 individuals signed up for public comment. And it does not specify if it's general or item related.
Okay. Are there any individuals online that have signed up?
None in the Zoom. It would all be in person.
Okay. I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Does anybody have any public comment for non-agenda items that would not include the public hearing? Okay, I'm assuming that is a no. So I am going to,
Out there.
sorry?
There was one in the agenda.
Yes, there is one on the agenda.
Just to, I don't know what
yes,
we're supposed to do with it.
it was added. This is kind of new for us, but there is a public comment added on there. I don't think we want to read that off in its entirety, so that was agended over there. So I will now turn to general business. So this is a public hearing resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval of the Vista Ridge PD Amendment Number 9 for the golf course maintenance facility. The time is now 6:34, and I am going to open the public hearing. And we are going to start with the staff presentation.
Good evening, Commission, and nice to meet a couple of you that I haven't met yet. I'm Harry Brennan, Senior Planner with the town. And as mentioned, the case I have for you this evening is the Vista Ridge PD Amendment Number 9 for the golf course maintenance facility. And this request is specifically for a PD amendment, and it covers 2.1 acres of the overall Vista Ridge PD. And it is an existing use of the golf course maintenance facility that's there today. And so where we sit in the process is at the PD amendment as highlighted here. And I'll note that there is a in progress final plat application and site plan application. And those, if this zoning or if this PD amendment were to be approved by council, those applications would be finalized with staff and applicants. Tonight I'll get into some more of the background and then some of the details of the proposal itself, and then finally get into the recommendation and the approval criteria. So the property in question here is at the northeast corner of Sunset Drive and Bonanza Drive. for a little feel of what the site looks like. So the top photo is looking sort of northeast from Bonanza across the site, and then the second photo there is looking northwest from Sunset. The property, as I mentioned, is part of the overall Vista Ridge PD, and currently is noted in the PD as a residential planning area. The comprehensive plan does designate this property in the future land use plan as residential low uses. However, our comp plan does contemplate secondary uses in most all of our land use categories, and so for the residential land use or the residential low land use category in the comp plan, some of the secondary uses that are considered are parks and open space and recreation uses, some types of non-residential and sort of day-to-day services and amenities, and then also limited quasi-public uses. Staff also found that this particular goal in the comp plan is consistent with this application or with this proposal. Of course, the golf course is an integral part of the Vista Ridge neighborhood and also the town itself. And the golf course does need a maintenance facility, so staff do find that this would support the golf course in its operations as well. I'll get into a bit more of the proposal or a bit more details of the proposal itself here. So as I mentioned, this focuses in on one planning area within the overall Vista Ridge PD, which of course covers a lot of area. And so this planning area would change from the estate residential planning area to a specific planning area for the golf course maintenance facility. And this is summarized a bit better on the next slides. So the two main things that are that would be accomplished by this PD amendment are firstly to update the allowed uses. And so currently allowed uses are residential and commonly associated accessory uses, and then some private or common open space type uses, recreation, country clubs, golf courses, tennis courts, swimming pools, trails, and parks. Through this amendment, however, we would clarify that the golf course maintenance facility isn't allowed use at this or in this planning area, and that would be the only use, along with, of course, the sort of accessory uses that would go along with the maintenance, which would be outdoor storage, storage of equipment, some minor equipment repair, that sort of thing. And then the second main thing that this PD amendment would accomplish is it would establish new guidelines for that use. So it would impose new setbacks, so a 25-foot setback from any property line. And then in particular, while that setback applies to buildings and structures, and within that setback area, there's also a landscape buffer requirement. So that also prevents in those situations, or in that 25 feet in the case where it abuts a residential zone district, or 15 feet where it abuts street or drainage detention area. And so in that landscape buffer area, it must be landscaped. It can't include outdoor storage or building or any of the maintenance operations. It has to serve as a screening buffer. That's written into the PD. The PD amendment also provides some additional standards for fencing. So fencing needs to be designed to match the overall Vista Ridge aesthetic. It does limit the height of outdoor storage of materials to the no higher than the top of the fence. It does require paving of the outdoor storage, and it also imposes some sort of basic architectural standards for the building, and that section just refers back to our UDC in that case for light industrial type buildings. And of course, this is just one part. So the PD amendment has to come first. The zoning has to come first, but other required applications would be the site plan and the plat that would have to come. And those. So yeah, if town council chose to approve this zoning amendment, that would be the next step. So those applications are in progress with staff right now, and so those would be finalized after a decision from town council. I'll get into the approval criteria now. So staff do find that the PD amendment meets these criteria. The PD amendment establishes a highly specific planning area just intended for this maintenance facility. And that does allow us to be more specific in the land use regulations and the design standards. And that would not be possible under a typical like light industrial type zoning. Staff and the applicant worked on these design standards to hopefully improve the function, the safety, and also the aesthetics of the site. Staff find that this use is similar to some of those secondary uses that I mentioned earlier that are called out in the comp plan. Even though it obviously is not a residential use, it is similar to the quasi-public and the recreation type uses that were listed there as secondary uses. At this time, staff have no outstanding concerns about the utilities or public services or public safety at this site. However, of course, we are still finalizing the site plan and the plat, so we'll be reviewing construction drawings and those types of things as assuming the zoning is approved. Of course, we would go through a building permit on this as well. And staff do find that the proposal would improve and formalize access to the site by lining it up with the drive across. This isn't necessarily part of the PD amendment, but the site plan that the conceptual site plan that the applicant will show lines up the drive access with the street across from Bonanza. The site would also be required to complete the sidewalk along the frontage of Bonanza and would be required to improve things like water quality and drainage. And there's a lot on this slide. Well, I guess there's a lot on all these slides. Building scale is limited to 30 feet in height, which is similar in scale to the residential nearby, which is actually allowed to go up to 35 feet. Visual relief will come from landscaping and fencing, and the PD will create specific standards to improve the site with a landscape buffer. Posting requirements were met for this public hearing this evening. In terms of neighborhood meeting, the applicant actually did 3 neighborhood meetings, with the last one, the most recent one, officially meeting the notice requirements. And so some of the key comments and questions that came out of that were about the nature of the screening and the fencing, the location of the facility and whether the applicant had considered other alternative locations, and the future construction plans, what the next steps would look like if this zoning were approved, and then also stormwater and drainage. In conclusion, staff do find that the Vistaridge PD Amendment number 9 complies with the PD approval criteria and recommends that Planning Commission approve the resolution, which would recommend approval to Town Council with the following condition, our standard condition, that the applicant shall make all necessary technical corrections prior to the hearing at Town Council. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant is also here to give a presentation.
Good evening. My name is Matt Chalk. I am the PGA Director of Golf and General Manager at Colorado National Golf Club. I am also an Erie resident, moved here in 1998, and have been at the golf course since 2008. I just wanted to go over some of the slides here. Number one, just kind of meet our team. We're using DCB as our design and build and general contractor. We have Gage Land Development as our consultant on this project as well. And then using Hearst as our engineering, as well as TJC on that side of things. Purpose of the rezoning here for us, obviously we as a golf course want to design and construct a modernized maintenance facility, something that's much different than we've been operating out of for the last more than 2 decades. It'll support our staff, obviously, with a climate-controlled environment. They'll actually have some heat, running water, bathrooms. It'll help improve our operational efficiency, which is so important. We've had multiple times of theft and vandalism of our equipment, of our property, so that helps reduce the risk of that as well. And really helps us address a lot of long-standing community concerns on that particular site. We too don't like how the site is and are really excited to improve that site, improve the appearance of the site as well. And this will also allow us to better protect our equipment, our materials, and our staff, and improve on the equipment that we can purchase. As you know, most of that equipment sits outside year-round, which is not a great thing for Colorado and our winters and our summers as well. It takes a beating on the over $1 million of equipment that we have out there. Our goal really is to continue providing this premier golf experience for the community, the town of Erie, and as well as the University of Colorado. The golf course, too, for a lot of you that don't know much about it, it's affiliated with the University of Colorado. It's the exclusive golf course for that and licensing agreement. At the facility, we've hosted thousands of charity tournaments out there and contributed to many different causes, whether it be through schools and fundraising, all kinds of amazing things through the town of Erie. We have supported the Erie boys and girls golf teams, as well as Alexander Dawson golf teams, Prospect Ridge, and many other schools around the area. We've been partnered with the town of Erie and their community and their recreation center and their programming as well for growing the game of golf and junior programs. We host many police events and town events at the facility, and we one of the coolest things is we employ a lot of Erie residents. It's been extremely nice for me being there for 20 years to see these kids that have grown up working at the golf course and are now adults moving on to different jobs, and they got their first jobs working at Colorado National. So some of the important things, we feel like we've been such a terrific partner with the town of Erie in my time at the golf course. We've years ago, I remember with some of the easements on Highway 7 where the Lazy Dog was previously, they didn't have access on the very west end of that parking lot. And we gave that land to the town of Erie so they could have entrance into the Lazy Dog on that side, knowing that we wanted to one day do this with the maintenance facility. So there's a lot of history there, but we want to continue to be terrific partners, not only with the town of Erie, but with the community that we reside within. Community growth and support is something that we really pride ourselves on with the golf course, and we're excited about. I want to say one thing that really ultimately, we're really looking for the ability to improve the operation that has existed for more than 2 decades at that site as a maintenance facility, as what it is currently today and what we're hoping to do. This rezoning will allow us to change that, allows us to properly house our employees, our equipment, and improve the appearance and security of this site. This isn't really about bringing a new use to this location. It's about taking a use that's been there for more than 2 decades and finally giving us the way to do it the right way. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Hello, everybody. Heidi Majerick with Gage Land, 8827 East 35th Avenue, Denver, 80238. And now I just, Harry did a great job with the staff report, covered what the comp plan said, the review criteria. So I'm going to try to be brief and just go through this as quickly as I can. I think you all know where the site is, on Sunset Drive and Bonanza. You can see this is approximately a 2.1 acre project site. And as Matt said, the golf course has been operating this maintenance use there since the early 2000s. And then, just one important distinction tonight that Harry covered in the comp plan is it is a secondary, allowable use. And it's the golf course is an allowable use under the Vista Ridge PD. And what this PD amendment will do is specifically allow the maintenance use. And as Harry went through, create specific design standards for the maintenance operation, which the town currently does not have. So it'll be good for the town. And then I'm trying to operate two laptops here, trying to go no paper. I didn't print those. So, this slide shows, is that up there? This slide shows exactly what we're asking you to change tonight. The property remains within the Vista Ridge Plan development. We're simply trying to create a new planning area specifically for the golf course maintenance facility. The PD, as Harry went through, designates it as low residential. And with this application, replace that designation with a very narrowly defined golf course maintenance planning area. The maintenance facility and directly related accessory uses would be allowed in this amendment, and essentially everything else is prohibited. So we're really trying to create a regulatory framework around a use that supports the golf course while giving the town much greater control over how that operation looks and functions. Bear with me. Next page. All right. Next page. The second thing this amendment does, and I think this is very, very important, and Harry went through it, is it establishes specific development standards for the site. He mentioned that it includes things like the setback, the maximum 30-foot building height, the landscape buffers adjacent to the residential areas, fencing, screening requirements, controls on outdoor storage, paving requirements, and architectural standards for the buildings. Those standards don't govern the maintenance operations today. So this amendment allows the maintenance facility to be able to improve. It creates enforceable standards that will result in a substantially better site and more control for the town. And that it's consistent with staff's conclusion that these tailored development standards will improve the condition of the site, lessen impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, and most importantly, give the town greater enforcement abilities. Next page. This is awkward. My printer blew up on me right as I was getting ready to go here, so I couldn't print. So see all the color on my hands? Super fun. So we have some images of the site, and before I walk you through these images, I do want to clarify what you're looking at. So these are renderings. This is a part of the site plan that is currently being processed with the town staff. The site plan, as Harry went through, is a separate application, and the specific design you are about to see is what it could look like, but it's not a part of the approval. But we knew that, this site has been problematic for the community for a long time, and that people would want to get an idea of what those design standards could lead to. And so we've included these images for that context, even though it's not a part of the applicable review criteria. So this view at Sunset and Bonanza, there's an improvement that's a part of the development standards, which is that addition of the public sidewalk. So the pedestrian connection currently is incomplete. And as a part of that PD, the design standards require the sidewalk be constructed along that frontage, like Harry had talked to you about. And so you can kind of see here how all of those design standards, the setback, the fencing, the landscaping, why the town staff worked hard with us to get those design standards in there to make it, a better neighbor to everybody who abuts the property and who, views it day to day. As we move along Sunset, you can see the proposed development standards and the PD amendment begin to work together in the site plan application. The goal is really to make the facility be appropriately screened and buffered from the surrounding community. The PD amendment establishes, like Harry said, the maximum building height of 30 feet, along with setbacks, landscape buffering, and staff concluded that the resulting scale is compatible with the surrounding properties. So some of these I think I'm just gonna flip through because it sounds like I'm repeating what has already been in Harry's presentation. One more here. I did want to talk about the entrance a little bit, and Harry had talked about this, that the access for the facility would need to line up in the site plan with Skyline, which takes away conflicting left turns. So while the application does meet the review criteria, I actually think there's some places when we talk about safety, pedestrian circulation, traffic, that a resulting site plan, should this rezoning be approved, will actually improve conditions rather than just simply comply with the review criteria. You know, and the aerial does the best job of kind of pulling all of these elements together for you. And I think ultimately this is going to give the golf course an opportunity that they can't do right now, which is to improve this facility, to take what is an imperfect existing condition with a substantially regulated, enforceable set of design guidelines for the town. And I just want to leave you with a couple things. The first is that the golf course, like Harry had said, is an allowable secondary use in the comp plan. So it is, this is compliant with the golf plan, and it's necessary. The maintenance facility is very necessary for the success of this golf course. The PD amendment supports a use that has existed in this location for decades and supports a business that has and continues to be a great partner to the town, citizens, and the University of Colorado, which the university isn't just important to the town, it's important to the entire state. And for me personally, it's very important. My son is a sophomore at the university, so I do have to put a little SCO buffs, got a little bit of buff stuff on here. And third, the amendment creates an opportunity to materially improve existing conditions and provide the town with greater control and enforcement capabilities. Town staff has reviewed the amendment against the plan development approval criteria and has found that it complies with those criteria and has recommended approval. So we are going to respectfully ask Planning Commission to recommend approval of the Vista Ridge Development Plan Amendment Number 9 to Town Council, finding that the review criteria have been met. Thank you so much. We're all here to answer questions for you.
Thank you. We will now move to public comment. We have a number of individuals on the list for public comment, correct?
Yes, it looks like after looking at it again, there's 12 people signed up for public comment on this topic.
Okay, and do we have both online or just in person?
Looks like they're all in person.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read off a little bit of some context of this, and then I'll turn it over to the secretary to run through the list. So public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. When you are called upon or admitted virtually, which we don't have any, you will be asked to state your full name and city for residents. For the record, public comment is not an interactive question and answer forum, but rather a time for you to state your comments on this particular matter. You'll be given a 20-second warning when your 3 minutes are almost up. At that 3-minute mark, I will ask that you wrap up your final sentence. We don't have anybody virtually, so I will turn to the secretary to begin calling the individuals.
First one is Brian Feek.
Hello, I'm Brian Fiak. I live at 1970 Lodgepole Drive. Been a resident in Vista Ridge for 4 years, and me and my wife have been members at Colorado National for 3 years. I've really enjoyed my time there, getting to meet other community members and golfing with my wife and teaching our children how to golf. I think that Heritage, since they bought the golf course, has invested a lot in improving the conditions at the golf course, the pathways, the bunkers, a lot of turf improvements. And I think the maintenance facility is a big next step in improving the overall maintenance and operations of the facility. I think they're trying to invest a lot of money and maybe they're already operating this maintenance facility at this location, so they're trying to get it rezoned for what they have been doing for 2 decades. And I think the town supporting them in their long-term stewardship of the course and the property is the right thing to do. So I support the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brian Bednar.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Brian Bednar, 280 Skyline Drive. I'm an avid golfer, and I value Erie's golf course, but I'm also a professional engineer. I've studied this application, and I have lived next to this eyesore for 15 years, and I strongly urge you to deny this PD Amendment 9. For 23 years, the golf course maintenance yard at Sunset and Bonanza has operated as an illegal, non-compliant land use. It is currently a blighted dump at the gateway to our Erie Air Park community. Approving this amendment does not fix the problem. It rewards decades of willful noncompliance and surrenders the town's enforcement authority. There are 6 main technical reasons this application must be denied. First is location. This amendment doesn't just establish this as a new zoned area. It actually moves the maintenance yard from east of Vista Parkway to the west side of Vista Parkway. Why is that important? 80% of the golf course is on the other side of where it is now. This forces slow-moving maintenance vehicles onto our residential streets. Thus, this project violates UDC 10-7-5B3A regarding enhancing public safety. And alternative sites also exist on the east side of Vista Parkway. Second is comprehensive plan compliance. Staff claims this project generally is compliant. That is false. Neither comprehensive plan nor Title 10 UDC allows for industrial maintenance and storage facilities in low-density residential zones. Inadequate mitigation. The proposed fencing and gates are too low to screen the yard. Fourth, flooding risk. Public Works requested the drainage go to the eastern detention pond. Instead, the applicant plans to bypass it, dumping new pavement runoff into Cessna Court Detention Pond, which already suffers from severe flooding. 5, inadequate traffic analysis. The traffic analysis that's part of this application completely ignores the safety impacts of slow-moving maintenance vehicles operating on our residential streets. And 6, mine subsidence danger. Previous geotechnical reports have warned against building here due to shallow coal mines and documented ground subsidence. In fact, it specifically stated the safest approach to land use on this site is not to build here. Even the report that was commissioned by the advocate for this amendment, the engineer's report says, if you do choose to build here, you need to have special egress routes so people can escape this building when it collapses and when the ground caves in. That's in the application. I hope you all read that. So to wrap it up, the applicants have zero intention of executing a multi-million-dollar project. What they want is legal shield of this amendment so they can leave this dump like they have for the past 23 years. Do not reward 20 years of zoning violations and do not ignore the many technical reasons why this application should be denied. Please vote no on Amendment 9. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have James Tolliver.
Hi, my name is James Tolliver. I live 67 Morgan Circle South, a 6-year Erie resident. I came to the golf course through a program called the PGA Hope. It provided me an outlet and a meeting place for fellow veterans. And over the last 3 years, it has been something that has been very important to me and kind of life-changing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Derek Tolan.
Hello. Thank you, commissioners, for listening to all of us talk. My name is Derek Tolan. I live at 17636 Olive Street, resident of Erie for about 7 years now. My wife and her family have gone to Erie High School we just started our 4th generation. I'm the associate head men's golf coach at the University of Colorado, and I just kind of want to paint a picture of what the golf course and its maintenance means to us as a golf team, me personally, and as an institution. So we do about 250 kids worth of junior camps every year. From all skill levels, from beginning to very good college kind of athletes. I know the women's team also does a lot of junior camps as well. And then fundraising, we use the facility a lot for fundraising, taking donors out, even letting them spend time with the team with practice and everything like that. So it help us out in that regard as well. And then mainly the most important part for me directly, both professionally and personally, is the condition of the golf course. I don't know how many of you guys watched, for example, the USAM last week, the US Amateur. It was on CBS. We had one of our guys out there playing on it. And one of the first things he said to me was he's never seen greens that firm and fast before. And, that might not sound like much to a lot of people, but when you have the members of the golf team representing the University of Colorado quite literally fighting for their, athletic lives out there, being able to give conditions of the golf course to what we see in a tournament basis and regular basis means a whole lot more than you can ever imagine. So, I would really, really highly recommend voting yes on this amendment. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Rick George or Ann Calvin.
Good evening. My name is Ann Calvin. I live at 2340 Cessna Drive in the Erie Air Park. Every time we enter our neighborhood, we are faced with seeing this blighted property that has been neglected, ignored. It's a true eyesore for us as we enter our neighborhood. We compare that to the beautiful Vista Ridge monumentation. That's spectacular. The maintenance yard is stuck in a back corner where there are fewer voices to complain about the appearance. We understand that a maintenance facility is critical for operating a golf course efficiently. We would all like to see some new beautiful facility there. However, the owners have demonstrated for years, 20 years, what having a maintenance yard means to them. It's neglected. It looks like the landfill. Neighbors have voiced their complaints to the town of Erie and have been repeatedly told this is a temporary situation, but nothing changes. And it becomes apparent that the town currently lacks the regulatory teeth to enforce compliance and hold the property owner accountable. Now we're being asked to support a rezoning proposal. I asked this committee if the property owner has ignored standard upkeep from the very beginning, how can the town trust that the owner will fulfill any new commitments if rezoning is granted? In the town meetings, the HDC has approached our community and asked us to be their partners in supporting this rezoning request. Yet the request came with explicit threats. That threat being, if this is not rezoned, we will continue to look at this eyesore for another 13 years. That doesn't set well with the neighborhood or me. I urge the planning committee to vote no on the proposal and to not reward bad faith threats with favorable zoning.
20 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Albers.
Good evening. My name is Mike Albers. I live at 2440 Reserve Street in Erie. I've been a resident, my wife and I have, for the past 5 years. When we moved here, we were looking for a way to expand our social circles, and Colorado National provided that opportunity for us perfectly. We've met a number of wonderful new friends, expanded our friendships beyond just our neighbors. And that's what Colorado National really does provide to the community of Erie, is a way for anyone moving into the area to do just that. You know, when we visit other places around the regional Denver area and we let people know that we're from Erie, many are very familiar with the area. They talk about its growth, what a great town it is, and oftentimes they talk about Colorado National. They've either played here because they're an avid golfer. Many have played in the numerous charitable events that the club hosts on an annual basis. And many talk about either their child or their grandchild who's attended one of the many youth programs that are offered at Colorado National. But all of them, to a person, always talk about what great condition the course is in, how beautiful it is, how well maintained it is. And that doesn't happen by accident. Despite its repeated play, the maintenance team at Colorado National does a fantastic job of keeping the course in excellent condition. Whether you're playing it or driving past it, you know, on 7 or throughout the community, it presents itself well, and it is a tremendous asset to the town of Erie. I ask you to support the amendment number 9 and allow the maintenance facility to be upgraded, and I think that sounds as though it also supports many of the opposition to why it should not be granted. You know, making it look better, being a better neighbor, is a product of exactly what we're asking to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dory Van Loan.
Good evening. I am Dory Van Loan. I have lived in Erie now for 32 years. My late husband was the mayor when Vista Ridge was put together. I also campaigned for that whole project in hopes that we would have a bunch of new community members to enjoy Erie and the views that we have. That view, and that people are referring to, was nothing but a bunch of field. And there was a rifle range, that there were tons of lead pulled out of that place to make the beautiful Vista Ridge that we have. I'm going to stand up for Colorado National and that group. It's not their fault that we have the problem of it not being fixed. It should have been handled a long time ago. I see Barry Talley here. We should have handled that. Tom missed it. I want to say my late husband missed that. It should have been rezoned a long time ago. It's a zoning problem. It's not their problem. They would have fixed it if they had the right to do that. So I am in full support of it. happy to share with you guys any other information you might want to know, but please vote in favor of this. I know it's going to be fixed. I know if you look at all of the other things that have been improved at Vista Ridge and the restaurant and the bathrooms and the greens and all that good stuff, the maintenance facility will follow suit. I have full confidence in that. So please, do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cameron Moore.
Good evening, Chair, Council, Planning Commission. My name is Cameron Moore, also an Erie resident. My wife and I for the last 7 years, both Colorado natives. And when we were looking for where in Colorado we wanted to put our roots down, our parents are still here, they're in different towns. I have siblings here in different towns. Erie was home and Colorado National was why. We live there now, live on the course. It's not part of just golf for us, it's part of every day. It's what we wake up to. It's what we bring our friends and family in for. So when we're looking for what are we going to do for an evening, Colorado National is often the entry point to that. We might start there on the beautiful patio, which requires the maintenance facilities, before we head down to Main Street. Colorado National isn't just golf, it's community. We've also firsthand experienced the charity. So for 3 to 4 years, Wishbone Foundation, founded here in Colorado, held a charity event at Colorado National. It has since moved on, but that provided a home for a community that raised funds for bereavement, that allowed families having children and suffering to have the training and nursing that they needed. It's just one example that touched us personally that I felt like sharing with you rather than just it's charitable. Touched our family in ways that I won't get into today because I won't keep composure. When I think about the maintenance, and what we need to do, it's about the community, it's about the visibility, it's about the representation, and it's not just golf, but it is that entry point to Erie and what we do. So if not clear, I please ask you to vote in favor of this evening for the maintenance facility and the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Gamberg.
Good evening. Robert Gamberg, my wife Donna Lou, 1967 Briarwood Place, Vista Ridge. We've lived in Vista Ridge for more than 20 years and have been playing golf at Vista Ridge and Colorado National ever since we moved here. We actually kind of moved here in part because of the golf course and the community. So we've seen a lot of changes over that time there. We strongly support proposed maintenance building because it would provide a proper place to maintain, store the equipment, improve operational efficiencies, and enhance the overall appearance of the golf course and maintenance facility. This improvement would bring value not only to the golf course, but also the surrounding neighborhoods. For these reasons, we believe the proposed building is a practical, worthwhile investment in the long-term quality of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick George.
Hi, I'm Rick George from Boulder, Colorado. I'm the Athletic Director Emeritus at the University of Colorado Boulder. The Colorado National Golf Course has been an anchor in the development of Southeast Erie and the Highway 7 corridor. The development of Vista Ridge created not only an exceptional golf experience, but also helped establish the vibrant residential community we see today. Vista Ridge became a catalyst for continued growth in Erie and has contributed to the economic vitality of the town. Each year, thousands of residents and visitors play Colorado National. For many of them, their experience at the golf course helped shape their experience and their perception of Erie. The condition of the course, the quality of the experience, and the professionalism of the operation all reflect on this community. Colorado National also plays an important role as the home course of the University of Colorado Boulder men's and women's golf programs. For our student athletes and coaches, the quality and condition of this course are critical to the success of our programs. A consistently well-maintained course provides our student athletes with the environment they need to practice, develop, and compete at the highest level. It is also an important part of recruiting. When prospective student athletes and their families visit Colorado National, the quality of the course and its facilities represents not only our golf programs, but CU and the Erie community as well. Having a championship quality home course is a tremendous asset to both of our programs. That is why I want to emphasize how essential an adequate maintenance facility is for the long-term success of Colorado National. A golf course of this size and quality cannot be maintained without the proper infrastructure behind it. The maintenance team needs safe and functional areas to work on equipment, store machinery and materials, organize tools and supplies, and provide employees with the basic necessities of a professional workplace. The current facility simply does not adequately meet those needs. If we expect Colorado National to consistently provide an outstanding experience for residents and visitors, support community events and tournaments, and serve as a high-quality home for CU men's and women's golf programs, then the maintenance facility team needs a proper facility to make that possible. Colorado National is an important community asset and an important partner of the University of Colorado Athletics.
20 seconds.
Investing in the investment of this golf course and its employees, student athletes, Erie residents, and visitors for years to come. Thank you for your time, and I would vote in favor, and we would appreciate your vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Rohrer.
Hi, I'm Scott Rohrer, 1581 Alpine Court, Erie, Colorado. We've lived here for 20 years. We've been members for 17 years. Colorado, we moved here from Highlands Ranch because of the course. It is one of the finest courses around Denver. Certainly we need a maintenance facility, understand how it looks as I've lived here for 17 years, but from what I've seen, I think it's a significant improvement on what's proposed. And so I'm here to advocate for its approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Jennings.
My name's Jim Jennings. I live at 1866 Parkdale Circle North, here in Erie. Originally moved here in 2005 from El Paso, Texas. Key reason was, at that time, Vista Ridge Golf Club, now Colorado National Golf Club. We built a home, lived there for 5 years, moved back to Texas. When I had the opportunity to move back, it's one of the key reasons we moved back to Erie. Maintenance facility is extremely important to taking care of a great facility like Colorado National. And so I am a strong advocate for voting yes on the proposal. And I wish you guys would do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Schmidt.
Hi guys. My name is Jonathan Schmidt, 38 years old, and I moved to Erie 5 years ago. Now we've heard a lot about golf tonight, right? I live at 2711 Sunset Way. You can fact check me. I look at this building every day. Every day I walk out of my house, every day I look out my windows, I get to see this facility. Now, when I moved here, I figured surely this is going to be addressed. That was in 2021. It has not been addressed. And so I ask myself, why? Why am I still looking at this building? Why do all my neighbors still look at this building? And I can't really come up with a good answer. So tonight, I think I found the answer. And all I ask for you guys is, before you make your decision, to take a ride. Come over to Sunset Drive and Bonanza and turn into our neighborhood, our beloved neighborhood, Vista Ridge. And let me know if you feel proud turning in at Bonanza and Sunset Drive, because I don't. And I want to. So I hope that you guys vote in approval of this, and I approve it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leo Markworth.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leo Markworth. I am at 161 Mount Bierstadt Street, Brighton, Colorado. Excuse me. About a year ago, I was dealing with PTSD, suicide, Marine Corps veteran, and Erie changed my life. The Colorado Golf Course and its programs, the PGA Hope, if you get a chance, you should look at it. It saves veterans' lives. So, I apologize. I'm trying to work through it. The course itself offers a safe place for veterans to show up. We've had many of them come there with PTSD, problems at home, and this is a safe place for us. So when the course is asking for a new maintenance facility, it's really supporting us as well. Their involvement with the veterans is substantial. And I just wanted to point out that a few of the veterans actually become employed at Colorado National because it's that nice, because of the environment that it provides. That being said, if they're asking for support in this, it's not just affecting, the individuals who show up and the athletes, but it's also affecting the veterans. And so, Colorado National is becoming a hub nationally. So if you haven't paid attention to PGA Hope in the program, we're having thousands of people that are coming all over the nation that are showing up. And not only that, but Colorado National is home to the Secretary's Cup Championship, which is a Veterans Cup that's down in Colorado Springs. So a lot of folks are coming up here. They're coming from other programs, from other golf courses, and they're looking at Erie as, hey, this is going to be the main hub for Colorado. Not only that, but the PGA program, the Hope program. So I just ask respectfully that you take in mind that this is affecting more than just the athletes and the community members, but the outreach, like veterans like myself, right? It's saving lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Derek Tolan. That is all we have for the maintenance facility.
Okay, I was going to ask if there was anybody else who would like to provide comment, and I see somebody who raised their hand, so if you'd like to come up to the podium.
Hi, good evening. My name is Johan Morris. I'm a resident of the Erie Air Park, and I strongly urge this committee to vote no on the application to rezone the property for the Colorado National Golf Course Maintenance Facility. This rezoning must be denied for three critical reasons: severe geotechnical hazards, a history of unmitigated visual blight, and the fundamental incompatibility of land use. First, the safety risk on this parcel, as Brian alluded to, the applicant's own 2024 geotechnical evaluation by ground engineering notes that previous drilling logs from CTL Thompson explicitly stated, and I quote, "We do not recommend any development due to extensive mining and recent mine collapse. This property sits directly," that's end quote. "This property sits directly atop the former baseline mine workings. Drilling confirmed open voids and unstable collapse rubble directly beneath the site between 36 and 65 feet. Ground engineering confirms that mining subsistence here could plunge the ground down 1 to 3 feet. Less than 500 feet away, Mountain View Fire Rescue Station 8 just required a $2.5 million renovation strictly due to these exact soil subsistence issues. Furthermore, the soils report only covers 10% of the property, consisting of only one single bore where the building might be built. I too am an engineer and therefore have read the report. Second, Engineering Golf Corporation has established a 20-year pattern of visual blight and broken trust. While the applicant's attorney suggested this yard was or is protected as pre-existing non-conforming, the town's attorney has classified it strictly as non-conforming. HGC claims they have only managed the property for 2 years, yet Weld County assessor data proves they have owned and neglected it for nearly 4. Rezoning rewards 2 decades of noncompliance and expanded property rights. Finally, this is a gross incompatibility of industrial and residential zoning. Placing an industrial maintenance yard immediately adjacent to low residential and rural residential zones is entirely inappropriate. The proposed plans allow for an industrial building up to 30 feet tall. Even at half that height, it permanently damages the rural residential character of our neighborhood. Zoning rules exist to protect residents. Please protect our neighborhood and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. You can come up.
Hello. Patrick Gonzalez, 10994 Arapahoe Road. I moved here in 1982 when it was just all dirt. So I watched Colorado National go in, back then was Vista Ridge, and improved the city, helped it grow. And I think the best thing you can do for the city, and that's what we're here for, is to improve our city, is to allow this to go through and remove, it's an eyesore. You saw it on the pictures, you could see it in person. To rezone this so they could, make it part of the community and improve the community and remove the eyesore is the best thing for the city to do. And I think you should vote yes on this, being a long-term resident here, 45 years in this area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anyone else signed up.
Okay, are there any other individuals who would like to speak on this item? Okay, I'm going to quickly look to the Deputy Town Attorney. Are we fine to move forward on?
Yes, we are fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will just note for the record that the PD amendment, it's not a standalone document in the attachments that were uploaded with the file. The PD amendment is contained at pages 11 and 13, just for the record. They do contain, the current version contains staff comments, but one of the conditions of approval or part of the Planning Commission approval process or approval, the resolution before Planning Commission is for the applicant to address the technical corrections as directed by staff. So just wanted to put that out there for the record. So if anyone's looking for the PD amendment, they know where to find it.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I will now move us on to commissioner questions, and I'm going to start down that way.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'm going to just ask what you prefer. I think I'm counting. I got 6 questions for the applicant, 5 for the staff. How would you like me to proceed?
Since this is a quasi-judicial hearing, run through your questions and we'll go through. So I'm going to give you as much time as you want on these. So.
Okay. Well, I know that other commissioners have questions, and I don't need to take them all. But can I start with the applicant? And specifically, you had your first graphic slide shows the location of the subject parcel. And this is a question I could ask of either staff or applicant, but starting with this excellent slide, the staff report shows the parcel on the south side of the road also being part of this. I think if you proceed to your next graphic slide, there's a bubble that shows some sort of effect on the south side of the road. I'm unclear on what this is intended to do. Obviously, the parcel that we keep talking about and have heard from the public about is on the north side of Sunset. Is that accurate, and does this also affect the parcel on the south side of Sunset?
The change on the south side is only to remove the name south, so that remains planning area 1.2. So there are no changes to the rules for that parcel. It's just the Vista Ridge PD is sort of has a sequential naming system, and so the change of the golf course planning area to 10.9 affected the naming of that south side, so we just had to correct the south.
Thank you to the applicant.
Sorry, I jumped in.
That's all right. And these can be as short an answer as is appropriate. The next slide in the applicant's presentation, please. So and we don't need the graphic here necessarily, but on this document, I presume are the answers to the three questions I want to just kind of shoot at you rapid fire. So we've heard in various forms that the new standards will require the sidewalk to be built along the entire perimeter, at least the roadside perimeter of this parcel. Where is that in these standards? What does it specifically say, I guess, that would assure us of that?
I can jump in on that one as well, actually. So that language is not specifically in the PD amendment, but that's a requirement through the UDC. So this one, because we have an ongoing site plan and plat, there's a little bit of it probably impreciseness of my descriptions, but the requirement for the sidewalk is coming through the site plan review and not through this PD amendment.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry about that.
And if I could just add to that really quick, with the PD amendment, we are subject to all the UDC rules and requirements, so thus the sidewalk is required.
Okay. What about the allegation that screening won't work? What does this set of design guidelines here say about screening?
So the guidelines require a setback to the fence to allow for landscaping, as well as fencing. The max height of the fencing can be 6 to 8 feet. So in the site plan application, we are actively working with the community to look at on this south, here, let me just show you on this. You can see it. You can see how the grade starts to drop, and you see how the fencing doesn't look as high because the grade is dropping, right? In the site plan, these details we worked out. There's a lot of engineering, a lot of utilities and certain things in that corner that make berming impossible. But that fencing can go to 8 foot high, and then you see those are existing trees out there. So you could do a combination of the 8-foot fence, which this allows. This is representing 6 foot. So the PD amendment allows going to 8 feet, which we're really grateful for because typically fencing can only be 6 feet, as well as landscaping. So right now we're actively working on a site plan. On the site plan, we're going to have another submittal, and we'll work to address those issues in the site plan.
Is screening required on all sides or only public?
The screening is the setback to the fence. Harry, can you help me with that? It's on all 4 sides.
Effectively, it's all 4 sides.
Front side, interior, rear.
That's,
so all 4 sides.
That's the question. Thank you. The 30-foot tall building, can you respond to that? What is allowed in terms of structure? Is there some sort of additional step back or anything like that?
So do you want to answer here with the setbacks, or do you want me to?
You can go and I'll add it.
So the building has to be, located behind the setbacks, right? So you've got a 20-foot setback, 25-foot setback. It has to be located behind that. The building can't go higher to 30 feet, and it has to meet the UDC standards for architectural design. But as one of the public commenters mentioned, as in with most of Erie, including where we're sitting, there's undermining that needs to be considered to site the building.
Okay. So where is maintenance today, again, responding to something that was elicited by public testimony? Is this relocating maintenance from one side of Vista Drive to another?
No, it's keeping it where it has been since the commencement of operations of the golf course. And that traffic report that was referenced talks about 29 vehicles are added to the street by the existing maintenance facility. So it's not moving from one side to the other.
Okay.
I can add a little context to that too, actually. Sorry to interrupt. So I think that comment was also referring to in the original Vista Ridge PD from 2000 I think to the year 2000. The maintenance facility was actually identified for a different parcel within Vista Ridge that is on the east side of Vista Parkway. However, that property is actually privately owned. It wasn't, or privately owned by someone else. It's not actually owned by the golf course. And so that property was actually subject of one of the other recent Vista Ridge PD amendments that's coming through. The plan is to develop that with residential.
And while we're on it, we're speeding through, Mr. Chair. I'm over halfway done. The story about the Lazy Dog entrance, was that ever the parcel, that maintenance? I can't imagine on the frontage of Highway 7.
No,
So
that was just
unrelated.
that was just an example that Matt was giving of how the golf course has always tried to work with the town when the towns had needs, and they're able to provide for it.
Okay. And germane to this, was there any study of alternatives? What alternatives exist, if any?
Yes, every site, every other potential site was located, and they just were not suitable for this use. And collectively with the town and the town staff, this is the site that makes most sense to support the operations of the golf course, which is why it's always been in this location.
How many alternatives were looked at?
Matt, how many lakes? I'll let Matt answer that.
I don't know the exact number, but we've toured it with town staff. I'm going to say it's probably 4 or 5 different sites. One site we found out had no choice to go to it, but multiple.
Great. These are my staff remaining questions. So enforcement history. What's the enforcement history here?
This property has a long history. So in some ways, I think it's probably best described as having been sort of in a bit of limbo. So there have been questions, or I think there have been various efforts at the past or throughout the past from the town and sometimes from the golf course to make changes to the property. And there were questions about how it was consistent with the existing Vista Ridge PD. And there were some questions about whether there was a prior approval. And so our current determination is that we haven't been able to locate any prior approval, and as it stands today, it's not allowed by the Vista Ridge PD. However, I think that in some cases has also worked to prevent improvement here because the zoning had to be addressed first. So, I know in the past the applicant had tried to put up a fence, and the town actually we weren't allowing permanent improvements until the zoning issue was resolved. So, so it all sort of had to happen in a linear fashion, and that's I think part of the reason it has taken a long time to get here. There also has been ownership change at the golf course, and so I think this has become a higher priority for the golf course as well.
Certainly the crux of what we heard from in the public testimony, but we may come back to that. In terms of stormwater, is anything going to change because of this? Is this part of a regional detention? What's going on with stormwater?
If the applicant has their engineer here, he may be able to speak to it better. There will be some on-site water quality features that would capture some runoff and filter it before it enters sort of a stormwater system. There's also a system of regional ponds in the area. So one of them is the pond that's directly to the east, but I don't believe the plan is to actually introduce water into that pond. It would be introduced sort of downstream and then incorporated later on. So our engineers are evaluating that through the site plan and the subdivision plat application, and so we're evaluating that to be sure that it's consistent and it wouldn't add more than the system can take, I guess.
Yeah, I think Carrie pretty much covered it there. The drainage is a part of our site plan application, not at zoning. So we're still in process with the town with further review, taking their engineer's comments on the stormwater, but ultimately it'll provide for better stormwater quality off the site than what's occurring now.
Okay, thank you. And then why do we have a minor subdivision associated with this at all?
So the minor subdivision would adjust the lot line to the east. The existing building, I don't know if any of the graphics show it. Oh, sorry.
Are we both moving?
Yeah, sorry, I'm moving it now too. The existing property line actually, so this existing building that you see here would be demolished under the new plan and replaced with the new building, but the property line actually sort of runs through the building. And so the plat is mainly a cleanup, and then it's also an opportunity for us to, or for the town to take additional right-of-way dedications that we need, and then also establish new utility easements that we would need.
Understood.
Yep.
Final question is related. Why don't we deal with the parcel to east as part of this? I mean, that's going to remain residential development. That seems unlikely, and it also is, correct me if I'm wrong, where the private access drive that's intended to serve this and prevent traffic from going on public roadways is. Why aren't we dealing with that as part of this?
That is actually the subject of another application, and so currently the plan for that is to remain residential, but also that this private drive is memorialized with an access easement, and so actually this is the most direct way for the maintenance vehicles to access the golf course itself is to use this private drive here, and so there is an access easement that memorializes that. So I think I guess the answer to your question is we are working on that also. It's a slightly different group. I mean, the ownership group is the Vista Ridge Development Corporation, which is sort of the, I guess, the master developer out here at Vista Ridge. So we are working on that property as well, but yeah, not included in this one specifically.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Booth.
You asked a lot of mine. Thank you. Continuing on the water, in the public comments, there was a question about properties to the north that have already experienced water encroachment in their backyards because of the inadequate detention near Cessna Court. The response was that that is right by the pond that needs to expand. Our understanding is that the town will not let this development occur until that is done. They have to increase capacity and bring it up to current standards. Is there something that the town is already working on that would have to happen before this could?
There are, as that public commenter noted, there have been stormwater issues with the new fire station that was built, and I believe, currently there's ongoing work with that facility, and so that it would need to be timed. That would need to be completed before final acceptance of the construction drawings and the plans would occur out here.
Okay, and is that reliant on the town?
On
the development?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think I know our engineering department has been working on that, but I don't know whether there's a private contractor that's working on that or whether that's town maintenance that's working on it.
Also in the public comment, Mountain View was brought up, and I know that there was some issues that happened at that location. Would we expect anything similar to happen at this location?
That was what we were just talking about. So that's the new Mountain View fire station that's just north of here on Bonanza. There, off the top of my head, I'm not sure the nature of their problems, whether it was sort of with the original grading plan or whether there were soils issues or maybe both. But that is something we would look out for when we're evaluating the construction drawings for this. Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe just on the fencing, maybe I'll come back with more questions. So 8 feet is allowed. Looking at one of those images, it really does, like, because of the grading, it really is not helping on Sunset. Can we make, as a town, can we make exceptions to fence heights?
We can, yeah. So we through this PD amendment, we do have the sort of special ability to set the standards that we feel necessary. So that is, yeah, something that we sort of went back and forth talking about, and whether there might be some kind of berming included to raise the fence. So I guess that's a long answer to your answer that yes, we can specialize, or we can make specific recommendations for fence height that are different from what's in the base CDC.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, then my last question. Meeting notices, that was also brought up in some of the neighborhood meeting comments. All of the meetings noticed properly?
So this public hearing and the most recent neighborhood meeting, so the first neighborhood meeting, we found out after the fact there was a problem with the mailer, and it didn't include the link to the neighborhood meeting notice. So while it had met the 15-day requirement, it had not met sort of like the content requirement for that notice. And so in the meantime, the applicant had actually done a second neighborhood meeting, but that notice hadn't gone out with 15 days notice. And so neither of those first two officially counted for their neighborhood meeting requirement. And I will say the neighborhood reached out and made us aware of this, so we appreciate that input, because then a third meeting was held, and that was the meeting that officially met all the noticing requirements.
And Commissioner Booth, I'm going to take ownership for that second one. When the golf course brought me on board, I thought that the first meeting had been properly noticed, but I wanted to go ahead and do a second meeting because I prefer meeting with community in person rather than on Zoom. And so I thought it had been properly noticed. And so I was like, oh, we don't need to notice this one. I just want to get the people I know who are upset in here and talking. And then some of the community provided us the first mailer, which we could see had been a previous draft. And then, I didn't made that decision. Oh, I didn't need to notice it because first one was. So I take ownership on that second one. But regardless, I think the more opportunities we have to meet with the community, the better. So we finally got it right on the last one. Okay. Third time's the charm, right? Okay. It's the third time.
That's it for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Leaf.
Thank you, Chair Solwich. So one of the concerns that we heard during public comment was the vehicles accessing the public way. And I wonder if you can talk about what sort of vehicles are being stored here and what is their route to maintain all of the golf course.
So we'll continue with how we're doing it now, which is you can see the access road that runs up there. That's where 90% of our traffic will go. There is some access that's by the firehouse. You can't see it on this particular map, but it would be a little bit north from our site that has some access. There's an access road that goes to one of our bathrooms, which is on holes 5, green, and 6 on that side. So the traffic or any additional traffic would remain virtually the same as we see today and have for 20 years.
Okay. And as a follow-up to some written comments that we received suggesting that one of the alternative sites that was in your applicant materials, I think by hole 3, if I'm not mistaken, might be a better location. Your materials said that didn't have good access, but it looks like it's adjacent to an access road. So I wonder if you can just talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. We looked at multiple sites, as I said earlier on there, number 3 being one of them. Cost-wise to utilities, the access road to come all the way from Vista Parkway down, 400 or 500 yards. I can't remember exactly how far that was, but yeah, we used our engineers on that side to take a look at that. And for us, it really, isn't the proper place for the site, right? The access to that site, to the rest of the golf course, I mean, that really puts us to one hole over there, the very northern side of the property. So that's why we didn't believe that site, one, from a cost perspective, and two, from the access and the ability for our maintenance crew to operate as efficiently as they can and without any kind of not distraction, but noise to the neighbors and so forth. That was our current site is still the best site for that compared to that one for sure.
Okay, thank you. Your materials included a photometric study. Those values that were portrayed, are those horizontal or vertical? Are they at the ground plane or at the 5-foot level? Okay, thank you. And then the Illuminating Engineering Society pretty much sets the standards for national light levels. The parking lot seems like it generally complies with suburban parking light level recommendations. Underneath of the, carport, the open garage area, it's 6 or 7 times that light level. And I'm wondering why that is and what's going to be used in that area that's open to view.
Catherine, do you mind coming to the dais and answering that? Catherine's our architect with the general contractor.
Catherine Hawkins with DCB. So that area will be mostly used for storage of the equipment and parking. It does have higher light levels at the ground level, mostly because it's under roof. But the photometric shows the lights on at all the lights on. That they may not always be on, or only when needed to be accessed during dark hours. Does that answer your question?
So I'm unclear as to whether or not those lights will be on all night.
No, they will not be on all night. Only when the maintenance team needs to park something under there or work on something under there at night, during dusk hours or off hours.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yep.
I can add to that too a little bit. The maintenance crew is usually gone by 2:30, 3 in the afternoon, so we're not parking any vehicles or moving any vehicles in the evening hours. There are times a year in the summer, obviously, when we could be in there, at 4:30 in the morning, so just a few minutes before the sunset comes up. So, those lights wouldn't be on other than what's needed for safety for, fire and those.
Very good. And I think my last question, actually, I've had two. Bless you. Actually, I have 3. The lighting for the parking lot. Do our development standards specify the type of lighting, whether it's LED, metal halide, high pressure sodium?
I believe our code, I wonder how quickly I could pull it up. I believe our code does express preference for LED. I know that it specifies full cutoff. The light levels at the property line can't exceed 1 foot candle at the ground. And then I believe there's also a maximum ratio of sort of the brightest versus the darkest area. But I can't remember that staring off the top of my head. But we, that photometric, we also, that wouldn't necessarily be approved with the PD amendment, but that is something we're evaluating in the site plan. So we can take a deeper look at that too if there are concerns, yeah.
And the design standards that are referenced in this amendment reference the industrial development design standards, which I presume permit metal sided buildings, kind of industrial type of construction.
They do, yeah. So that is that applies to our I believe our airport zone district, our light industrial zone district, and some of the commercial areas as well. I guess it's not zoning specific but use specific. And so as you said, that does, compared to other design standards for other types of building use, it does allow for more like a metal siding type, a little bit more of an industrial look.
Okay. Yep. And truly my last question. There was concern about the follow through here, and I'm just interested in what sort of enforcement there will be if there is any obligation to actually follow through with this.
I think I can start and then maybe I'll let the applicant answer as well. In terms of enforcement, so I think in the eventuality that this PD is approved, or town council approves this PD amendment and the use becomes an allowed use, the current operation still wouldn't be in compliance with the design standards in here, and there also would be other things that potentially could be enforcement issues, such as like visible trash or weeds or that kind of thing. So the approval of this PD amendment would sort of clear up this zoning violation, or this confusion about whether it's an approved zoning or approved use under the PD. So the use would not be an issue, but it doesn't necessarily prevent us from any other normal code enforcement operations in the future. But as far as the follow through, maybe I'll let the applicant speak to that.
You're talking about the fall through on just the previous?
Just the sort of follow through as in, like, if this were to get approved, actually going through the process of getting a building permit and building the structure and improving the site.
Building the fence, building the screening, the building. That's what.
I'll go ahead and answer that. So separately from the review criteria for the zoning, the applicant has hired a general contractor for design build, not just an architecture and engineering team, but an actual contractor design build. They've submitted a site plan. They've invested heavily in the money to submit a site plan and a minor subdivision. And so I think that they are very committed. They have, as you've heard from public comment tonight, since they've had ownership of the golf course, they've been investing heavily. It's imperative for their operations to have a facility that is of the quality of the golf course, not only to protect their employees, but to attract employees and keep the golf course at the level that's necessary to be, a really good member of the community. So I think what you do if you approve this rezoning that meets the review criteria is you give them the opportunity to make improvements, because through the years they've tried to put up fencing, but because it's not an allowable use, the fencing's not allowable. So now with this rezoning, you'll have an enforceable code with an enforceable set of standards that if for some reason they didn't move forward with construction, you can go out and go, well, your design standards say you have to have a fence and you have to have all this paved and you have to have these things. So you need to do it, or the facility can't stay as it is. So I think it gives you more enforcement capability, and as one of the public speakers said, it gives them the actual opportunity to improve the site. And so that would be my answer to the follow through. They're committed. They wouldn't have a design build contractor and a site plan processing if they weren't intent. It's a lot of money that's invested in these kind of applications.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Brodus.
I have several questions as well, maybe not as many, but, and full disclosure, Matt, I don't know if you remember, but I was your next door neighbor for 4 years. Anyway, so I'm very familiar with the property in the area. People talked about the issues of undermining, and I don't know who wants to answer this one. And reading through this report, which was 50 pages long or so, there are some major concerns there. It seems they would have affected the current place as well, but either way. So they're being adequately addressed, I'm assuming, but that would probably come with the site plan rather than zoning.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll take a crack at it, and if someone from the applicant team wants to speak to it too. But folks, public commenters are absolutely right that subsidence report does say the safest thing would be to not build on the property. However, the report does go on to identify an area of lower risk on the east side, and so that was actually one of the big considerations in the site plan was to locate the building on the east side. There may still be additional borings required at site plan and plat as we're finalizing that. And then the other thing that the subsidence report suggested was some potential mitigation construction strategies for like foundation systems that would help mitigate risk. So I think there are serious concerns. I think the applicant is aware of those as well, and so that would be something, that we're looking at during the construction drawings, and then also through the building permit as well.
Yeah, like I said, go 36 inches below rather than 12, but I'll let the architect and the contractor worry about those, because I don't expect that you would build a building that would fall down.
That's correct. And you were correct. It's absolutely at site plan. And you're correct. There are absolutely mitigation factors you can take. You can do slump channels around the building, but this is a relatively small footprint. And so, the location that the building's at is kind of the spot on the site that you could safely, with the right construction methods, build a building. But you were right, Commissioner. It's a time of site plan.
Okay, the next one, people talked about some already, which is the drainage. And again, that to me is a site plan issue, not a zoning issue. So if you could go to the last slide, you didn't actually go over it. It's the slide that actually shows the 4 alternatives, places you looked at. There. So, and I do appreciate the description of the alternate sites and why they were rejected. But I just think it's important for the public to see this. So, because it was in the material, just not, I said, not presented. So it covers things like the one on hole 3 and what the issues were there. Excuse me, sorry. So for that maintenance road that was in one of the earlier slides, it seems that also is an advantage of this site, in that there is a way to get from the maintenance facility to the golf course.
That was our transportation team did evaluate. Yeah, so one of the main recommendations for our transportation team was to align the drive access that's on Bonanza with Skylane. Thank you. But yeah, that was one of the other key consideration, as the applicant described that much of their use or much of their maintenance vehicle traffic actually follows that internal drive, and so some of it may be on public roads, yes, but the majority, it sounds like, are going to be contained inside, and actually would never touch or would never have to drive along Sunset. They would take this internal route to access the golf course.
Thank you. And what have you thought about the phasing of tearing down the current facility to put up the new one, and what would happen in the interim? Does that question make sense, what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, we have thought about that, right? Because but if you know what we have there now, we don't have much. We got a building that leaks, a roof that has a tarp on top of it, all those things. So I don't know that there's much worse. But yeah, we do have the logistical side of things. Obviously, we would bring in a construction trailer and so forth, so we have places for the staff and so forth. We have to get some temporary lift for our maintenance workers or for our mechanic to be able to work on equipment. But yeah, we have addressed that, and we feel like we have a pretty good plan going forward with that.
Thanks. And again, it's not a zoning issue, but all right, those were my questions. So thank you.
I'm up.
Yep.
I did go to CSU, so it's killing me inside to have this much CU attire in one room, but I'm putting that aside. This question is for Harry. In the staff report, it says the staff finds this use, if the PD amendment were approved, conforms to other contemplated as secondary uses because of the recreation use. Can you explain to me where the line would be drawn on a secondary use? Because there is like a pretty big industrial component to this. So where are we drawing the line on recreational use?
Yeah, I think there wasn't an exact analog, I would say, in terms of uses listed in the comprehensive plan. So I think we did our best guess to sort of compare it to that list of accessory uses and see what it might be similar to. And I think it's not exactly the same, but it's similar to both categories of recreation and quasi-public. in that it's sort of, I guess, quasi-public is that quasi-public, I guess, would be more of this type of like maintenance facility typically is a quasi-public. So I think that was sort of the thought process there. But I think that's kind of a maybe I don't know, not very detailed answer, but I think I think we did sort of have to find a category that was similar because we weren't sure that there was really an exact analog in the comp plan, but
Right.
But yeah, we sort of found that those ones were most similar.
Okay. In the site plan, will protections be locked in, like lighting hours, do you think, and drainage and the concerns by residents?
Lighting levels for sure. So the approved so the site plans always include a photometric sheet, and so or at least for non-residential uses, include a photometric sheet, and so those lighting levels would be locked in there. And then, lighting can be a bit tricky. You have to actually go out and measure it with a light meter to determine brightness and things, but that would be something our code inspectors could go out and look at if there were complaints about brightness. In terms of hours, our UDC doesn't actually offer any restrictions on operating hours, but we could work with the applicant to develop sort of a operations plan or operations manual that sets some guidelines around that, and it would be sort of a self guidance, but maybe some accountability if they wouldn't be a included portion of the approved site plan, but that might be a way that we work through it with them as well. Yeah.
Okay, and my last question, I think is probably for the applicant. I assume there'll be like a wash down area for maintenance vehicles. So is that what you were talking about with treating the water before it goes back into the detention pond, since I assume it has to be treated before it goes back in?
Yes, the site plan application that's processing provides for elevated stormwater processing through a sand treatment facility that all of that wash down would go into before it moves on downstream.
Okay. All right, those are my questions. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good news is a lot of my questions have already been asked. So, yes, staff. We've heard a lot about how this is a non-conforming use currently. What happens if this isn't approved? What would be the next steps? Obviously, we provide the recommendation, goes to council. What happens if it isn't approved? Where would the applicant go from there?
I may let the town attorney chime in on it a little bit as well, but I think to my understanding, if this PD amendment were denied, it would essentially bring us back to where we were about a year ago. And so I think at that point we would need to coordinate with our code enforcement division and our legal department and just examine what the options were at that point, and whether. So it's sort of a broad answer, but I don't know that there's a set sort of plan B at this point. We would have to talk with our code enforcement division and legal to determine it. Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Yeah, no, he hit the major points. The UDC does have a violation enforcement provision, a penalty provision. So assuming the PD amendment were not approved, that's what we would operate under to assess what the next steps are from an enforcement standpoint.
What utilities are currently there? If this is a non-conforming use, what exactly is available currently on that site?
To my knowledge, I don't believe there might be a water tap out there. There's sanitary sewer line that comes through the property to the east, and so I believe both water and sewer would require new service lines. So they're nearby, and they're in Sunset, or the water line I believe is in Sunset and Bonanza, and the sewer line I believe goes through the property to the east. And so I think new service lines would have to be constructed to both of those. And so actually maybe the applicant can confirm whether there's any existing water.
Yeah, we have all the utilities that are necessary to service the site.
Okay.
More information is in the site plan for
Okay.
the actual utilities. But again, that site plan's not complete. so those utilities could shift.
The plan will have full access to water and sewer, I think. Yeah.
So how does this fit within our water allocations?
That's a good question. So our water allocation policy, we essentially are keeping a running tally as we go throughout the year, and so there's a set allocation each month. And maybe Daryl can jump in if I'm misstating any of this, but I believe we have a set allocation for each month, and so to date, I actually don't know that we've been using up all the allocation with each month, and so there's been some surplus carried forward, but. It also, I don't know, the applicant may be to a point of applying for building permits before the end of the year, in which case they would be subject to this 2026 cycle of water allocation. But it resets in 2027, or it's subject to a new calculation in 2027. So that is something we're tracking, and how that timing works out and what the allocation is. I don't have the exact number under my or in my head right now, but we are tracking it as building permits come in, so that is something to think about with the timing.
One thing to note as well, as far as the landscaping and so forth that would be around the property, talking about water, and I'll chime in here. I don't know if you're talking about potable water or the water that we're going to use for washing our hands, etc. That's a different deal, but any of the landscaping that's around there will tie into our non-potable system, which is what we irrigate the golf course with currently on that side, and we do have a tap that's really to the east side of that site already. So we will have the ability, all of our plants and any of the landscaping and so forth will be watered from our non-potable system.
And just to confirm, we still have time because it's at time of permit, not at time of entitlement or rezoning.
Correct.
Or site plan. It's at the eventuality.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, good distinction.
There was a comment saying that we're making an amendment to this area. However, the current property line goes through the building. I know this is a weird one because normally we're talking about an area where we're going to have development, but there's currently development there, and we're going to tear it down, and half is on the property, half is not on the subject property. But for this PD amendment, we don't care where the lot line is as long as there's authorization, correct?
Correct. Since it's all, you're right. It's a little funky, the actual timing of all that. There's a little more softness, I guess, to that, since it's all within the same Vista Ridge PD, and the planning areas are a little more loosely drawn. But we before the plat would need to be recorded before, or I think it would. Also, I don't think there'd be an issue doing this. Be recorded prior to, like, the construction and the demolition permits and things like that. But it is the owner of the property to the east is the Vista Ridge Development Corp. And I believe you all have been working with James Bolhalski pretty closely on this application and his application actually on the east side as well.
And that's correct. And as always, you're pretty savvy on that. Because it's a PD, it's rather agnostic to property lines.
Okay. Do we have any properties within town or zoning classes that are like kind? I look at this as it is golf course usage, which is permitted within a low density residential or most residential, except we're talking about a industrial type in a way. But the question is, do our current uses even fall to something like this? How do we go about that when we're talking about a PD and trying to apply it to our current zoning and something that is the equivalent? Is there anything generally?
That's a good question, and actually I think it sort of gets to the heart of Vice Chair Dreckman's question as well. So I think we have to do our best to, or I guess the quick answer is that there's probably not a perfect analog in terms of our straight zone districts. I think in some ways it might be most similar to the LI zone district, but that doesn't have the same setbacks and doesn't have the same specificity about a landscape buffer. And so there are other things that we are able to do because it's a PD, and other levels of detail that we're able to get into as a PD that we would not be able to get into with straight zoning. But in terms of use allowance, I think probably most, or this use probably I think would be allowed in an LI zone district, possibly AP and maybe our CC zone district as well. But I'm probably speculating a bit now. Yeah.
I'll add to that, Chair, and say that the existing zoning district, straight zoning, would be far more permissive than this PD district. So if we were to rezone to something like LI, you would open yourself up to a lot more potential uses that would be far more incompatible or incompatible with the adjacent residential uses. So by amending the PD, we can really control for the specific uses and design of the site.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to tack on my last question. I'm going to tack on to what was asked of timeline. And I understand that the Heritage Group is putting millions of dollars within this course, and obviously the maintenance needs that are there. If this is approved, allowing this use, now we get rid of this issue of a non-conforming use. But is there anything to guarantee that they would actually bring it up to standards as are specified within this PD? I'm not saying that the applicant wouldn't, but is there anything that is enforcing that they would have to, by a certain point at any point through this, whether it's this PD, site plan, or whatnot?
There wouldn't be an automatic trigger. So there wouldn't be an automatic deadline set if this PD were approved. There wouldn't be an automatic trigger by which they would have to submit. Well, they've already submitted and it's in progress, but I guess there wouldn't be a set deadline of when that site plan needs to be approved by. So, in maybe best case scenario, it could be approved a month or two after town council approves the zoning. Worst case scenario, maybe it takes a couple more months to resolve any of the outstanding issues. So there wouldn't be an automatic trigger or deadline set, but obviously this is a sort of a high priority for our code enforcement division as well, and so the existing development, I think, as noted by the applicant, wouldn't be consistent with these newly approved design standards, and so the existing use wouldn't be in conformance with that, and therefore we could look into enforcement options if there was sort of no action on getting a site plan approved and moving on to building permits and things like that. We would still have enforcement options.
And if I could just add to that, Chair Sawich, in addition to that additional enforcement the town could take, because it wouldn't be meeting the design standards, we've shared this with the community in our community meeting, so I think the golf course would be fine with me sharing it, that their contract for purchase and sale with the current landowner has stipulations and requirements about when they begin construction on the facility. So that's a private agreement, but they do have stipulations on their acquisition of the land to get under construction.
Okay, so if I heard that correctly, if this is approved, it actually helps with enforcement of it being non-conforming to the PD, so it actually benefits the community for this to happen because it moves things quicker through, potentially?
I think I would say that to that extent, it cures the use issue, where now the use is allowed under the PD, but it actually adds more stringent design guidelines that therefore essentially create additional nonconformities if they don't go through with this. So if anything, I would say that they're creating more issues now if they go through the PD amendment and then they abandon, the land sale and they abandon the improvements. Now they've created more design and zoning issues for themselves.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Does anybody have any last questions? No? Okay. The time is now 8:26, and I'm going to close the public hearing portion, and we will move to deliberation. So let's start on this side with Commissioner Leaf.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say that, it's very clear that Colorado National is a tremendous community benefit. It's a benefit to our town, our charities, our veterans, and our hometown university. And I want to thank everyone who came out tonight on behalf of speaking in favor of this. A couple of things I feel compelled to address is about the process here. I find it stunning that we've gone 20 years with a non-conforming use, and I just don't think that's acceptable in any community. So I just want to say that out loud. And I'm also concerned how the public hearing process was handled here. I mean, it sounds like we finally got to where we needed to go, but without some oversight, I'm not sure that really would have happened. And, the public comment is the backbone of this planning process. And I just can't stress how important that is, that we make sure that part of the process works smoothly and for our citizens. My final concern has to do with criteria I, which ensures that this doesn't have an adverse impact on our community. And for the resident who steps outside of his or her dwelling, this isn't an eyesore. And so for me, a couple of those things have to do with the lighting. This is going to be a 24/7 facility, and that lighting, this is not a shopping area. It's not really an industrial area. So I think that lighting aspect's really important. So I think it's really critical that the covered parking area that has a much higher light level is switched. I think, the lighting will likely be on the ceiling or the roof of that structure. So it's going to be visible for anyone in their house or walking by, looking up at it, just looking at some of the renderings. And that's going to be 6 or 7 times brighter than the parking lot. So I think it's critical that that be switched. The other area of concern that I want to talk about a little bit had to do with the industrial design standards. Again, this is a residential area, so I think the selection of material and the color of that material is incredibly important, because if it's just galvanized metal, it's not going to be conforming with the context. So I think it's really important for us to pay attention to that as it moves forward. That said, I'm generally in support of this, and I'll pass.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Just a reminder, and I know we've talked about this several times, this is a zoning review, and a lot of the issues that were raised are actually going to be in future reviews, like the site plan. Probably most of them will be in the site plan. And so I think that has to get recognized. I'm feeling that anything will be better, almost anything, not anything, but most things will be better than what you are living with now. And I think that's an important consideration. Things like being able to have a fence. From my personal perspective, if I have to look at what I'm understanding is there now versus what's being planned, my preference would be what's being planned. And from this location, as I mentioned before, having that egress out through the golf course rather than into the streets makes this a reasonably logical place for the facility. So I'm in favor of it.
Vice Chair Rickman?
Okay. I am trying to look at this not considering the current non-conforming use or the support of the golf course, because while I do think both of those are important to hear about, I'm not sure community support of the golf course as it sits is relevant at this stage of a rezoning. So I'm just trying to personally look at it from the approval criteria of the UDC and nothing beyond that. I believe the concerns from the engineering report and the water drainage should definitely be addressed in the site plan, as well as the hours, like I said to Harry, and and then just so the community feels like they're heard. All that being said, I will support this amendment to the PD.
Thank you. Commissioner Schatz.
All right, I'll give the Cliff Notes version. Commissioner Leaf said a lot of things that were sort of on my mind. Criterion G and Criterion I are the ones I'm looking at. I think this is oversold as, it's going to produce sidewalks, and we basically heard that that's the site plan process. So it's an indirect effect of this, but that criterion operates on a prospective basis. It doesn't have to be true today. So that criterion is met. But like Commissioner Leaf, I focus on criterion I, which, just for the record and the public's knowledge, says the PD zone district will not result in significant adverse impacts on properties in the vicinity of that PD zone district, or such impacts will be substantially mitigated. So we get into this scenario where the zoning is granted and then the project doesn't happen, the site plan and the, I don't know what happens with the minor subdivision, but it's really the site plan process that we're kind of talking about all in one sweep here. And I am concerned that that's a possibility. I don't think we've heard anything that makes it super realistic that that's a possibility, but this is a prospective condition as well. So it's not self-executing. We don't see, you approve the zoning and then they've got to build the fence, right? So that is concerning, but I think we heard from multiple people, including the staff, and I think it is true that there will be more nonconformities than less, even though the use will be resolved. So I know it's probably small comfort, but I think that is the relevant point in our criteria. And so criterion I is met. And then finally, I just want to say that I appreciate all those comments, and particularly the geotech comments are interesting. I don't think they're relevant. The risk of mine subsidence and so forth, the way zoning works, unless there's a hazard overlay district, is borne by the developer. And that would be addressed in the site plan phase as well. So again, thank you for all the comments. This meets criteria the way I'm seeing it.
Commissioner Booth.
Thank you. And thank you also to everyone that came out and spoke tonight. I think there's probably not anything I don't agree with everything that everyone else has said. I do think that this particular plot is probably, comparative to the alternatives, probably the most logical place for this to go. So I think, generally speaking, I am also in support.
Thank you. There are a lot of good things about us actually bringing this up to our code through this PD. There are some items that have been addressed that obviously need to be worked on throughout the process. But I also have to remember what this PD was initially formed for. What was the purpose of this area? And it was the golf course. That was the reason. And now we're talking about a maintenance facility to maintain said golf course. I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioners up here where we have approval criteria that are being met. There are some items that will have to be addressed by the applicant. It's through the process with staff that you'll be working on them. I would really talk to Mountain View and identify what the issues were that they experienced, because they had to shut down that station for 2 to 3 years, I think it was. They were completely out of the station over at Bonanza on the north side. So I would highly recommend talk with them, because they had significant amounts of funds that had to go into that to restore it because of the issues they had. So with that, I am going to let me grab the resolution. I'm going to see if there is a motion for resolution P2611, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval of the Vista Ridge Plan Development Amendment Number 9 for the golf course maintenance facility.
So moved, Brodus.
Second, Dreckman.
Okay, so that was a motion from Commissioner Brodus and second from Vice Chair Dreckman. And if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Commissioner Brodus,
Yes.
Commissioner Hemphill, Commissioner Leaf,
Yes.
Commissioner Schatz,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dreckman,
Yes.
Chair Sowish.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And I would say we look forward to seeing more, but it sounds like you're going to have administrative staff time with the other processes. So thank you.
Thank you for comments.
Of course. Okay, I'm gonna ask. Should we take 5 minutes before we jump into the next one? Yeah. Everybody fine with that?
Okay.
Okay. We are gonna take a recess for 5 minutes, and we will return momentarily. resume where we were, and this is another public hearing. So this is a public hearing, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie, recommending that the Town Council adopt a resolution amending the 2024 Elevate Erie Comprehensive Plan. Time is now 8:44 p.m. and I am opening the hearing. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Campbell with staff.
Well, I was going to start with good evening, but I think at this point in time we're at good night. But I appreciate you all being here tonight. My name is Josh Campbell. I am the Senior Strategic Planner for the Town of Erie. And what I am here for tonight is to have our first public hearing on the amendments we're bringing forth for the Elevate Erie Comprehensive Plan that was adopted October 8th, 2024. So what I'm intending for this presentation, I guess I will also preface in advance. A lot of this information will probably seem familiar to a majority of you who are able to attend our July 21st joint study session. For those who are not here, I promise to still give it as much detail and as thorough of a conversation as possible. But we'll go through the timeline of how this process started. We'll bring forth the proposed amendments that we are bringing forth. We'll talk about the public education and outreach that was done on this, ensuring transparency. We'll go over the approval criteria of what these amendments were, present our staff recommendation, and obviously close with questions and discussions. So to give that broad overview of what this amendment timeline was, on January 6th of this year, the Planning Department went to Council to have a study session on the comprehensive plan. There was some concerns from the council that related to land use as well as some of the policy language in our community building blocks chapter of the comprehensive plan. To end that conversation, the direction that we received from council was for staff to evaluate some new land use categories, the associated assignments of those land uses within the future land use map, and then those policy language as follows. Moving on, in February through April is when we really dove into evaluating and doing that research of what those amendments would look like, in addition to drafting that policy language, looking at the future land use map and what those changes would be in the associated parcels, but also reconvening what was called our technical advisory group, review group, so TAC. This group was made up of representatives from all the different town departments, as they ultimately have the most knowledge in their fields. So making sure that they have an opportunity to review any policy changes or amendments to the future land use map was critical, especially before we took any of this out to the community. Again, moving on into May, we had our public education and outreach, some of that awareness capacity for the general public as well as for the affected property owners, and I'll get into that into greater detail in the coming slides. Then June, we were able to reconvene our PAC, our Plan Advisory Committee, which was another group that we had when we were updating the comprehensive plan back in 2024. This is made up of representatives of all the different advisory groups, again, technical experts in their field and their advisory groups, so we wanted to make sure that they had also the same opportunity to review and provide comments prior to getting to this point. Moving on to where we are now, obviously in August, we have the kickoff of our first public hearing with anticipation of bringing this to Town Council in the coming weeks, and again, I'll cover that in some coming slides. So moving into the main concept of what was asked of council for staff to evaluate and review, what you're seeing on the left-hand column is the as adopted residential medium category. The description was looking at attached and detached housing types, including garden court apartments, and with a dwelling unit acres of 8 to 18. I want to emphasize that 8 to 18 range. This was the primary sticking point or concern from council on that. This was too large of a range, and there was a little bit of concern of what kind of product or density that might turn out and how that would affect different utilities, transportation, things like that nature. Now, what we are bringing forth with this amendment process is an amendment to the residential medium what we are adjusting is only the dwelling units per acre, which is increasing or narrowing that range to 12 to 18. Now, I know that contradicts my last statement, and that's where this next slide comes into play. What we were requested to do was to create a new residential medium category. So what we are proposing is a residential medium low. What you can see in the description, it's very similar to the prior residential medium. However, it does remove the garden courts apartments. So this description is looking at housing typology that continues to be more of attached and detached housing types, such as single-family detached, duplexes, and townhomes. And then narrowing that density range from that 8 to 12. This is very similar to what you would have seen in the 2005-2015 plan of residential medium, which was 6 to 12, which was part of the discussion on January 6th. However, if we look at our residential low category, there would have been overlap on the top end if we did our dwelling unit count at 6 to 12. So understanding that overlap and the concerns that that could create, we opted to keep that 8 to 12 range for compatibility issues. And then also, I want to note that the secondary uses continue to be the same, as consistent with most of the land uses throughout the comprehensive plan. I guess I should back up a little bit, because there's some more notes I want to provide. As you can see on the screen, it's a little difficult, but the dashed circle lines indicate 2 areas of town that council asked us to evaluate, or I should say, one specific area with the notion of looking for other areas in town, previously designated as residential medium, that may be more compatible with this new residential low classification. On the southwest side, you'll see 111th and Arapahoe. There's a cluster of parcels there that was indicated from council to evaluate for this new residential medium low. And then what staff also discovered was there's about 4.5 acres southwest of Old Town, kind of central to that screen on the map, or the map on the screen, of that was previously residential medium. Through further evaluation with this new classification, we felt it would be more compatible with the surrounding zoning, as well as just the built environment of Old Town, to be compatible with this new residential medium low. So with this proposal, or this amendment we're bringing forth, we would be adjusting these areas to this new residential medium classification, or medium low classification, from the previous residential medium. Now, there was one additional area of town that we were evaluating for this residential medium low classification as well. You may have heard discussions previously indicating this parcel as the Page property, the village at Coal Creek, but essentially that is southeast or northeast of town, where we were originally anticipating to do the residential medium low classification as well. However, on a separate project that was discussed on May 12th, council did have a discussion about this specifically, and ultimately the outcome of that meeting was to evaluate this, or consider this to be parks and open space. So knowing that guidance that came about in this separate meeting for a different project, we wanted to make sure that the future land use map was indicating of that as well. So with this amendment, we are also proposing this parcel to be adjusted to the parks, open space, and protected lands classification. So that covers the land use topics that were requested of council. However, there was also some language or concerns with how rural residential abutted more of our built environments, such as commercial districts or retail areas, and how that was to be compatible and protective of both sides. So what was requested was to evaluate some additional policy language in the community building blocks chapter. I'm not going to read it word for word, but what you're seeing on the screen is the additional policy that we are bringing forth to propose to you all, as well as council, to hopefully achieve some of those concerns of buffering, as well as development amongst our rural character areas, such as residential rural, or even some of our agricultural areas. Now, what is critical for us is to take a moment to acknowledge all of the outreach that happened with the comprehensive plan back in 2024. I know we met with thousands of people. We had handfuls of events. I can't remember the exact numbers at this point in time, but I believe it was north of 30, if I remember correctly. All that feedback and that community input is critical to build the comprehensive plan, because ultimately the plan is built for the community, with the community. Making changes to the comprehensive plan is a slight backtrack on some of what we're hearing from the community. So to make sure that the community is aware of this, we wanted to be transparent with these proposed changes and at least educate the community on what we are being asked to evaluate, what we are proposing, and ultimately bringing forth for recommendation of approval tonight. Over that course of time, we did 5 individual events between the town fair. We did the Organized Neighborhoods of Erie, 1 open house, as well as a handful of pop-ups at the ECC, ranging from as early as 6:30 in the morning to, I believe, 8 p.m. To make sure we're hitting all the key points of availability. Over that course of that time, we engaged with about roughly 250 residents of varying different inputs. However, what was also critical was making the point to notify the property owners that ultimately would be affected by this amendment proposal. I do believe we have some in the crowd tonight, and I believe maybe some online as well. I do want to acknowledge we did hear a variety of responses from property owners, as well as from the community. Understandably, there is some concerns amongst some of the property owners that feel that narrowing this down limits some of their ability to do things in the future. As well as a few of our other property owners felt that ultimately their plans that they see for development on their property would still be in alignment and congruent with what we are proposing tonight. Now, it is difficult to try to balance both of these outcomes, and what we are trying to do is at least be cognizant of what we have heard, but also recognizing that this is some direction that staff was given to evaluate. And then what we've evaluated to this point still feels like we are achieving what we've heard cohesively through all the engagement efforts that happened prior, but still acknowledging that this does come with some hardships or some impacts to affected property owners. But long story short, and I'm not going to read everything on the screen in front of you, but we are bound by the associated approval criteria. Ultimately, we still feel like these amendments are in alignment with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan as was previously adopted. We do, through the TAC and PAC, do feel like we have confirmation that we have adequate public facilities and services to address any of these amendments moving forward, as well as the development patterns that are being proposed with these adjustments are still in alignment with the comprehensive plan priorities. And because of that, what we are requesting tonight or recommending is your all's approval of recommendation for this amendment that we would bring forth to council in the coming weeks. And I know I sped around that, so we'll end with questions and discussions.
Okay, but before that, we're going to now move to public comment. So I see we have a couple individuals who stay with us, so I'm assuming they're here for public comment, but are there any individuals that are currently online that would like to provide public comment?
We have one that signed up for in-person public comment, and that is Deb Gonzalez. I'm not sure if she's still here with us.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let me read my script on this one again. Let's see. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. When you are called upon, or you will be asked to state your full name and city of residence for the record. Public comment is not an interactive question and answer forum, but rather a time for you to state your comments on this particular matter. You'll be given a 20-second warning when your 3 minutes are almost up. At the 3-minute mark, I will ask you to wrap up your final sentence. And that is all. So, Ms. Gonzalez, if you'd like to step to the podium.
Deborah Gonzalez, 10994 Arapahoe Road, Lafayette. Oh, nope, it's Erie now. Sorry, 2 years still listed as Lafayette. But anyway, I am against the proposal. When they did the comp plan, they did the interviews, they did the polls, and that's what they came up with. This is well, it's wrong. It's biased and prejudicial. It's our property. I saw the council meeting where the mayor asked for it. Him and Little John have been voting against our property since day one. We have been in a process since 2011, first initiated by Joe Wilson, the mayor of Erie at that time. And he had views of 111th to 287 to all be commercial, that whole project. He even talked about a movie theater, which I'm sure is probably good that it didn't happen now because hardly anybody goes to them. But that is what his projected view was. When 9 Mile came in, they did the big commercial, and then they did a set of apartments. We were supposed to be townhomes. But Evergreen was not a good company to work with for us. They lowball prices, lower than appraisals, that type of stuff. And so Erie contracted with the other two homeowners that they did build the properties on, the commercial and the apartments. Our property was supposed to be townhomes. Meritage Homes came in shortly after that, and we were contracted with them. We were on a hearing, but Mayor Carroll took it off the agenda that night before we even had the hearing, which I feel is wrong, but I'm biased. So it was taken off of the thing, and then we met with her. She told us that she felt they needed to do a comp plan and blah, 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 but she didn't realize it had been going on so long, so she would get us back on it, but she never did get us back on the agenda. So Meritage left. We've been in 7 contracts now, and each time we come up, this is the first mayor.
20 seconds.
Oh, no way.
I got you, don't worry.
This is the first mayor that has been blatantly biased and prejudicial and going against our property. And I don't feel it's fair to go down to the low medium. It's not going to matter if it's low medium or medium. The traffic's all going to be the same. It needs to be fixed. You need the higher densities to get a developer to come in and fix the road, Arapahoe. And sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to ask if Mr. Gonzalez wanted to cede his time to you or if he wanted to speak himself.
Last but not least, I'm going to time myself so I don't lose track too. Patrick Gonzalez, 10994 Arapahoe Road. It's nice to meet you all. We have been in this 9 Mile area for 44 years. We leased the land for our horses when we were first married. We bought the land to build a forever home with our children, raised them here. We've seen this grow from a dirt road from 111th all the way to county line. That intersection didn't exist until 98 when they put in, what is that now? North of us, the homes. Arapahoe Ridge, thank you. And 287 was 2 lanes. Progress happens. We weren't happy with the apartments, but neighbors have the right to sell their land and develop it. And progress happens. Erie has to grow, what was good for Erie. But now, what's good for Erie is that this land be developed because of Arapahoe. When you get to our driveway, right at 9 Mile Apartments, they end there. It's a bottleneck. It is very dangerous for the traffic. It is very dangerous to in or out. Sometimes we have to wait 10 minutes to get our mail. Sometimes we wait 5 to 10 minutes to get out of our driveway. People are courteous enough to let us out. Some people honk at us, curse us. It's our driveway. We're right there on Arapahoe. But anyway, this is very dangerous. It needs to be addressed. To find a suitable partner, we need to have this medium density. Otherwise, it'll be almost near impossible to find somebody that will work on this, to afford to work on this part of Arapahoe to 111, improve this intersection, which has not been improved since 98 till recently this year. 1998, how long ago was that? that this has been a traffic problem. So to improve this, we need this. As you can see, thousands of cars come from east side of Erie to go to Arapahoe. We need this to be improved for the city of Erie. And without this, it can't happen. It's almost going to be near impossible to find a partner that's suitable to improve where it's good for Erie and good for the people. So we ask that you vote no on this, changing this amendment to low, medium density. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
There's no one else signed up for public comment.
All right, then I'm going to start with commissioner questions, and I'm going to start on this side this time with Commissioner Leaf.
Thank you. Just one question, a clarification, the Garden Court Apartments, can you explain the change there?
Yeah, so originally, if we look at the built environment of what the density for garden courts apartments typically are, with this adjustment to residential medium low, the density for those would exceed this new proposed 8 to 12 classification. So in knowing that, we removed the garden courts or the little less vertical based apartment structures from this new classification, but recognize that with residential medium as amended, it would still be a viable option as well as within that density range of 12 to 18, sorry.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rodas.
One quick question. Is it possible to approve the split in the zoning and disapprove the specific locations where it will be done?
So just for clarity, for the record, are you mean the split in the land use, not zoning?
Right. I mean,
okay.
I don't have as trouble having specific having an extra zoning category.
Mm-hmm.
But the land use, where we hear from people that it's not good for the land they own and they don't see any value in doing it. Can we say, yes, we don't have a problem with the zoning, but we do have a problem with the land use?
I will take an attempt at answering that, but I may also look towards my colleagues over to my right. I believe ultimately, yes, I believe we could do an amendment approval of the new land use classification. However, where we would run into an issue would be how that new classification exists within the future land use map. Okay. So I believe we could initially revert back to what's been amended now, with understanding that maybe there's further conversations or evaluations needed to be had to either amend those specific sets of parcels to that new classification. Wouldn't be as straightforward, but it's plausible in my understanding.
I just want to clarify to make sure we're all talking on the same playing field here, is that we're discussing land use with the comp plan and not necessarily the zoning. So the zoning would need to follow the comp plan, but we're not dealing with the actual regulatory framework of the zoning here. It's just the future land uses. But the future land uses will have a hand in dictating the future zoning.
Understood.
Yeah.
And just to clarify as well, we have approve with conditions, or deny. We can't have denial with conditions. So
Understood.
it can only be one of those three.
So, okay. I think that answers my question. Thank you.
Who's that?
Vice Chair Dreckman.
Can you tell me how you identify, not you, but how the department identifies that property off Arapahoe Road as more conducive for this new land use?
Yes.
Specifically that property?
Yeah, so I will also acknowledge that this parcel was specifically asked to be evaluated for that new land use classification of residential medium low. However, we also made the point of evaluating any parcel that was previously indicated as residential medium under the undeveloped or underutilized classification. So that's looking at only a handful of properties that are still within that future land use map under that previous classification. While there is an adjustment to the density as well as the housing typology, essentially allowed or envisioned for that future land use map, overall, it still fits in the general principle or the goals of the comprehensive plan of achieving more diverse and potentially more feasibly accessible housing typologies in the town, as well as it does follow the goal of seeing a feathered density from our more higher intensity uses, such as the 9 Mile area, and looking at the surrounding built environment. So all things considered, with this adjustment, we do still believe it's achieving the goals of what we're wanting to see overall. Obviously, recognizing that it's maybe not achieving or as great of an outcome for some property owners, as well as some other differences of opinions.
That makes sense. And just to clarify, if this were approved on the future land use map, that doesn't necessarily mean that, there is a situation in the future where a higher density gets approved on this property, correct?
Correct.
This is just a guiding document.
Correct. I think that's a critical key point there that I wish I made earlier. So I appreciate that. Acknowledging that land use is truly just a visionary item. It is not regulatory. And as Daryl mentioned, our planning manager, our UDC update would come next in terms of hopefully aligning with that, and that would be looking at the zoning component, which again, it becomes our more regulatory component for setting density.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Commissioner Schatz.
One question, and it can be anyone on staff, which is when we look at those criteria for the decision tonight, they occur to me as land use map, adequate public facilities. How does that apply to policy on, character?
Yeah.
So I just want someone to confirm this is a legislative process, not a quasi-judicial process, and maybe a little more background on how those criteria apply to the decision.
In terms of the criteria specifically, it's as set forth by our UDC. I do apologize. I'm not sure that I'm fully following your question here on what you're looking for or what specifically. I do apologize.
Yeah, and I could chime in. I could say the adoption of the initial comprehensive plan is a legislative act, so it's fairly clear. I think when you start, I am not aware of a Colorado decision identifying whether a comprehensive plan amendment that amends the land use map for a particular property would put that into a quasi-judicial versus legislative capacity. Courts often look at the totality of the circumstances and what action is being taken, whether a particular action impacts a particular landowner when evaluating and making decisions on whether something is quasi-judicial versus legislative. And I don't know, and turn to Josh to say why is the map amendment, how broad is the map amendment from a parcel property standpoint?
I would say there are specific parcels that are being adjusted with it, so it's not necessarily a broad look. There were some council recommended parcels specifically to be evaluated. However, we looked at the entire future land use map, specifically anything under the previously or the as is adopted now residential medium classification. So to answer that, it was evaluated broadly with understanding there were specific parcels that were asked to be evaluated and considered for the new classification type.
That's all I have. All right. Commissioner Booth.
I'm in the camp. I've seen this presentation, 4 or 5 times, I think, already. So I have no questions. I did just have one comment on the community buildings block page. I really like some of that protection for our rural edges. I think we hear some of that in a lot of our public comments. So I just wanted to call that out, that I appreciate that.
I feel very old right now saying this. I'm the only individual in this room who has seen the 2021 comp plan amendment, the 2024 annexation, the 2024 failed rezoning of the denial, and then the 2024 comp plan update. So I have seen exactly what has occurred on your property throughout all this time. So I'm going to make comments in just a moment about that. The rationale as to why to have this as a medium low or low medium,
Medium low.
medium low.
Yes.
So low, medium low, and medium now.
Yes.
I understand the purpose, because there are some properties that it could have something that's stretched out to an 8 to 16, or what is it, 12 to 16 now, I think it is.
12 to 18.
12 to 18, yeah. And I understand that. And part of the update that was done back in 2024 was to allow for higher densities in certain areas. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was one of the reasons, right?
Correct. Yes, we looked at the built environment as is now, and primarily what we are seeing housing typology is large lot single family housing, which is not necessarily attainable or usable by some of our existing and or future residents. And so we want to diversify that housing type by increasing some of our density opportunities.
Okay. And when we look at these two properties that are specific to this update, technically three, I'm not going to get into the other one because we have a future application on that one. The two properties, the residential properties, not the Page property, these were previously at the residential medium, or were they at a different class in the prior, 2015 update?
Both 2015 and as well as what ultimately was adopted in 2024, I believe did classify, well, with the exception of the obviously 111, the Arapahoe at the time, envisioned that as residential medium, and as is adopted now, was that classification of 8 to 18. So we would be only adjusting from medium to medium low, so still keeping in what the broader vision and ultimate goals of what the comp plan was suggesting.
Okay. And when we look at the comp plan in terms of what we have as not just a vision, but also what is the current built environment, we have to understand what are the various facilities, the utilities, the infrastructure that is within that area. What could this potentially handle as a capacity or some sort of, ability to tap into that infrastructure that may already be there, or to have new built infrastructure, correct?
I believe I'm following your question. Ultimately, I mean, yes, with these proposed amendments, with review of all the different technical departments, we do feel like these amendments would still be adequately in alignment with the utility infrastructure needs for those locations.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one, because I realized I asked my question wrong, because it is all about land use, and I understand that. Is what I really meant to ask, is it possible to allow the split or the addition of medium low, or split of medium to medium, medium low, without having the specific properties identified? So it is all still land use.
I think that reverts back to
Same answer.
Same answer.
Okay.
As of what, because that's how I interpreted your question the first time. I do believe ultimately it's various changes to the comp plan. I mean, I think to your point, you could make a condition to that.
Okay. Or at least exclude the one where the property owner is very clearly against making the change.
Turn to legal and Elliot to confirm that.
Go
Or-
ahead. You can make a recommendation to approve with the condition that certain properties not be reclassified into a particular land use category.
Perfect. Thank you.
One additional question. So I understand the current version of the comp plan defines medium as 8 to 18. What did the prior version of the comp plan define medium as?
I gotcha. 6 to 12.
Yes. Thank you.
6 to 12.
Correct. And
So
to
this-
acknowledge that was actually set in 2005 as the land use densities were not changed with the update in 2015. So the built environment was vastly different then.
So it was, just for clarification, low density was 2 to 6, medium was 6 to 12, high density was 12 to 20. And the last time that this body heard the comp plan amendment for this property, made a recommendation which went to Board of Trustees at the time that ended up getting withdrawn or removed or something. I don't know what happened. It was to move this property to that medium density residential. But there wasn't ever that comp plan amendment that occurred officially. And then we had to wait for the annexation and whatnot because we didn't have at the time any comp plan amendments from that point on. Basically, the town attorney's office said, no more comp plan amendments, and that's why we also had a full update.
Do you remember what it was classified as before it was removed? Before it was proposed to be changed?
Nothing.
Oh, there was nothing.
Because
at all.
it
wasn't annexed.
It wasn't even, so the process has been, and I believe it would still be, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be added first into the planning area through the comp plan, and then we have to do the annexation and zoning and whatnot. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll be honest, I do not know that answer, and that was also prior to my time with the town, so I'm not familiar with the process that was handled for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
right.
pretty confident,
Yeah.
but yeah.
That
So
makes
it got
sense.
added to the planning area through this comp plan amendment.
Right.
But it was actually annexed in prior to, so technically it wasn't part of our comp plan when it was annexed, and so.
Gotcha. So it didn't have a classification.
Cart, horse, yeah, chicken, egg,
Yeah.
yeah. So. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to end the public hearing portion, and we'll move to deliberation. And this time I'm going to start with Commissioner Schatz.
All right. Let me just clarify why I ask about legislative versus quasi-judicial. There's several reasons why it's of interest, but specifically, if this is a quasi-judicial case, we can't testify, okay? In a legislative case, we can talk all about what we know and what we think and so on and so forth, but the evidence in a quasi-judicial case has to come from the record. I'm just going to jump right to my conclusion. I think Commissioner Brodus is onto something. I think we should bifurcate the land use map action from the remainder of the policy. I think that squares us with legislative action. It's the map changes that are problematic from a quasi-judicial standpoint. And my reservation is the criteria about adequate public facilities. When we talk about property at 111th and Arapahoe, it lacked adequate public facilities a year ago, and it lacks adequate public facilities today, but I can't testify to that. I'm sitting on the Planning Commission. So this makes it a lot easier, I think, by just doing part of it tonight, and not really weighing in necessarily on those map changes, but finding a way to develop a record that we can take action on separately. So that's where I sit right now.
Okay. Commissioner Ruth.
I don't have any questions or comments.
Okay. Commissioner Leaf.
No further comments, I think, at this time.
Commissioner Brodus.
Nope, not until we have to make a motion.
Vice Chair Dreckman. I understand the rationale. What we have before us is both of these. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, of course, I'm going to look to you for guidance. I don't think we have the authority to bifurcate what is currently proposed as a resolution that staff has brought forth to us. This is the resolution that we have as one single item.
Yeah. Yes. The resolution is was pre-drafted as a sample ordinance for the Planning Commission to consider. You have, as a body, imposed conditions in other land use matters that weren't pre-drafted by staff. So Planning Commission does have the authority to recommend approval subject to conditions.
But it would be recommending approval of the entire, not like we only recommend approval of part and not, right? That's my confusion, I guess.
No, I'm hearing it a little differently.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
The condition would be that further action is required for land use map changes.
Right.
Right. I understand that. I'm just saying, like, I guess to me what it sounds like is we recommend approval of the change in future land use category, not, and then clearly having a not, not is the problem in my head. But it's okay if we say we recommend approval and recommend further analysis on the specific properties, right?
Recommend approval of a comp plan with the condition that the land use map not be included in approval.
Okay. We've just messed this up before, so I just want to make sure we don't do that again.
Yeah, isn't that sort of like a denial?
Yeah, that it just almost that's my problem.
Conditions.
It feels right.
Yeah, we went through this with Canal and
Right.
And they couldn't even then actually vote on what was passed through to them.
And it was
So,
confusing the whole time. I just want to make sure that we're
I
following the rules.
I agree.
Maybe this is a question for you, Elliot, as I'm thinking out loud here. There are multiple map changes as part of this comp plan. Is that correct, Josh?
That is correct. There's three areas proposed with changes.
Yes. So if the Planning Commission wanted to recommend approval, but they're concerned about a particular property that they don't want to change the designation of, but they're okay with the other designations, is that an acceptable resolution for the body, or do they have to blanket condition the entire map?
I don't think they need a blanket condition the entire map, but we would need to define with reasonable certainty the portions of the map where it is not recommended to change.
Good. I just wanted to get that out there in the record.
I personally would not be comfortable with that just because I haven't studied the property myself. Like, the only knowledge I have of the thoughts of this property is from, which I totally understand and believe in property rights and landowners, but I would not be okay approving that. If we're pointing out a specific property, I'd be okay acknowledging that the whole map should be looked at or further analyzed, but a specific property doesn't sit right with me because I haven't had a chance to sit down and analyze that property myself. So that would be my personal opinion on how I would vote.
So a question addressing Commissioner Schott's concern about approval item D relating to the adequacy of public facilities and infrastructure. If this were approved and a plan development came forward, we would have another bite at that apple, right? We'd have to review any future application with regards to the adequacy of public facilities and infrastructure. So we get another bite at that apple, regardless of what happens tonight, if we were to approve it. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I don't know what the property is zoned currently, but I think what I'm hearing is a rezoning would most likely need to come forward as the next step in the land use process. One of the approval criteria there is consistency with a comprehensive plan, I believe it is. So there would need to be a finding that whatever is proposed from a zoning standpoint is consistent with the master plan. And there are, one of the approval criteria is there as well, adequate public facilities. But I think depending on whatever the proposed zone is in the future, both consistency with whatever the future land use map specifies this property, as well as public facilities and other criteria would be considered.
I'm comfortable with that. I feel like 18 units per acre is probably too dense for this site.
Quick question for Mr. Schaefer. In the state of Colorado, a comp plan amendment does not require notice the same way in which a land use decision would. Say if we wanted to do an administrative change of actual zoning for a property owner, we would have to notice the affected parties, those that are within that area. If this were a town initiated, municipal initiated, versus a comprehensive plan, we just have to notice that this is occurring. An update and an approval, whatever it might be, we do not have to note for the actual property owners that this is occurring. So there's two completely different aspects, going back to what you're saying, legislative versus quasi-judicial. This is not the same as a quasi-judicial. You have to notice the individuals, the property owners who are affected by this, like you would have to in those situations.
That's not a quick question at all.
3123-208. CRS.
Yeah, but our notice is also dictated by the UDC. I don't know the state statute offhand, but if an individual property's owner is if their property is being rezoned on a one-off basis and specific criteria are being applied to their property, and criteria is being applied based on a record, then yes, notice would be required to provide them with adequate due process.
So we get into a chicken or the egg situation. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, and that is the case law in Colorado about when something is quasi-judicial versus legislative. It generally gets into, and I'm not aware of a case on comprehensive plan amendments, but there is they look at generally is criteria being applied, does it affect a property owner's land rights? There's other considerations that a court will look at to determine whether something is quasi-judicial versus legislative.
I'm okay with Vice Chair's recommendation to just have the condition that we approve with the condition that the zoning map be looked at later. I think that's what you wanted.
Yeah, or
you
not later necessarily, but just further, or the suggestion that it be further analyzed.
The difficult thing that I'm dealing with here is this is the first time that this is coming to the body like it is. Normally, in all of the comprehensive plan amendments that we've had that have been town initiated, this body has been able to review these, has been able to provide their input, and now we're having this brought forward as one collective piece without the input like we normally would. I understand that there's a PAC-TAC, that was formulated. I don't know. This was council directed. We have to remember also that we are, supposed to follow their work plan, and this was on their work plan. But that doesn't mean that we also follow them blindly across. So
we're all trying to thread a needle, I think.
I mean, I understand. I understand what you're saying about, legislative versus quasi-judicial. I totally understand. And, we're in a gray area. I could give my testimony of everything that I learned during the hearing from the Arapahoe and 111th. If that is applicable, I could tell you exactly why. There is a very valid concern here at this location. I don't know about the other location though. So I don't know if that one is applicable to the same situation. So even if I said, hey, I know Arapahoe on 11th, you know, this might be suitable, I don't know the other one. Please.
I understand the water and the traffic problems.
I did not come in knowing that I'd have that comment, but it just occurred to me that I'd ask for my just rubber stamp that this is legislative, and that's not what was represented. And I understand the case law, but I'm also not here to be the attorney. So we're all in this same ship. I don't think it's a damning criticism to say there was a defect in the way this was launched, and that is that it was done in a way that was very specific to what parcels would be looked at. Right. To correct that defect, I think the council could just direct staff to look at where medium low is applicable anywhere in town. Bring low up to medium low, bring medium down to medium low.
But didn't he say they did that though? They already did that though. You know what I mean? Didn't you say?
Yes, and I mean, there were specific parcels requested on the January 6th meeting. But however, it was also requested to evaluate any other parcels we felt would be necessary or would be compatible with this new land use classification. Right. So it's both technically.
Yes.
And the issue that has been brought up is it was just such a large jump from what we previously had, 2 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 18. 12 to 20, and now we went to, 2 to 8, 8 to 16, and
2 to 6, 8 with his amendment, 8 to 12, 12 to 18, 12 to, bear with me.
But while that's ongoing, I mean, I think back to, should we hone a condition that we can say this process can still play out, consistent with council direction, but the map arriving at a later date? I mean, that's what we need to sense of the commission right now. In my mind, I'm still in favor of that rather than all or nothing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Do we have the ability to bifurcate the two as two separate resolutions, where we have the comprehensive plan, the text, and the comprehensive plan, the future land use zoning map? Do we have the ability to split the two together, or is it as it is to us right now?
Can I test a condition? So the condition I would like to propose is that the changes to the land use map at this time be confined to the page open space designation for the open space category. That's a condition that I think preserves the full scope of what was looked at, but also preserves the ability of the staff to help bring this back as a clearly legislative action on the land use map. That would be helpful. So, to Mr. Schaefer, the condition would be, at least for the purposes of your analysis, can we confine just to one property, the land use map action tonight, as a condition?
Yes, I believe you can. I think that would be a valid condition. Recommend approval on the condition that the map, as you mentioned, the land use map be confined to the page open space.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I agree with that, but I mean, I don't even know why you would then limit it to any property. Right. Like, why just single out the page property?
Right.
Like, it's,
And that's what
I agree with Commissioner Booth.
the vice chair said.
And can I answer that? From
Yes.
my perspective, not an authoritative perspective, but from my perspective, we have an adequate record to take action on that site specific. If it's quasi judicial, we have that record, because development for parks and open space is not requiring infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's the problem that I'm having with the analysis, if it's truly quasi judicial.
It actually may, but I don't want to get us into that because there is an amendment that is upcoming, and so.
But then my condition would be that there be no land use map, and I think the outcome of that analysis is the same.
Correct, yes.
I'm okay with either one. It seems take them all off is cleaner than just taking some off?
I just don't know. I feel like we're tasking staff to redo what they did. I could be wrong. And I don't know. I've never, been through this process. I don't have your job, but you did analyze them. So if they come back to you and say analyze them, I would say, as I did. So that's my hesitation here.
Correct. I mean, ultimately, our direction or our next steps would be to again pull any underutilized or undeveloped parcels currently designated as residential medium low, and evaluate them on the potential inclusion of a new residential medium low classification. Our analysis ultimately would probably be the same. I can't confirm that without having more conversations.
And I'll jump in here, Josh, and say too that as part of the comprehensive plan updates here or amendments, we did have a work session with council, did we not? I wasn't here then, so I'm asking you as a real question. Okay, so what might happen is we would go back to the drawing board. We might have additional work sessions with council, maybe additional work sessions with this commission to maybe come to a different solution, maybe the same solution. But given the feedback here from the commission and the public, it may change perception of how staff moves forward. It may not change that, but I wouldn't want to say that we'll just come to the same conclusion given the robust conversation that's been had here tonight.
Right. And we just wanted to point out that, you guys did work. There was work involved before.
We appreciate that.
Analyzing these,
Okay, so I want to be cognizant of what time it is for us. This is the latest that we've been here in a while. Do we feel where we are getting into an area where we may need to take a step back to have staff come up with some solutions for us that we are seeing some potential issues here right now? Would we prefer to take a vote on the matter, or would we rather prefer to maybe continue the matter? Because I valid discussion going on. Any decision that we make has an impact on other things unbeknownst to us. So I want to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into an area where we're making a decision that comes to haunt us.
And I'm also concerned that we are responsive to the community's requests.
Right. I'm not comfortable this time with any of the proposed.
So you want to continue?
Conditions.
When is this slated to go to town council?
We have noticed it as of today that it will be going September 8th. Or that's at least the date in which we're anticipating.
And I'm going to have to, if we were to continue this has to be a date certain. We cannot correct. We have to go to a date certain because this is a public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we have to notice it again?
No, we don't have to notice because we've already noticed it.
Okay, so we can continue and bring it up on the 2nd.
Yes, but if we do, we'll need to receive clarification on this, or it's going to have to come from council because they're the ones who directed this.
Yep.
If they say just do it, then we just make a decision, whatever we want at that time. Otherwise, they can provide some clarification and maybe reach out to them, to council if you could at that time, to find out, is it possible to bifurcate the two, to have them as two separate items and bring up some of the concerns. I know we're pointing out things in our process, and our town attorney's office hates that to happen, as we have found out many times. Commissioner Schatz.
I just want to say that staff did good work on this. I think the council's direction was noble. I think it's better direction, better feedback if we take action tonight. And if there is no condition, that defect in the record that I perceive, I'm not sure how that affects my vote, quite frankly.
Okay.
But I would rather take action since you asked.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not seeing any benefit of a continuance, really.
Okay.
I'm not sure what additional clarification we need. I mean, for me, the compelling issues are that staff has studied this for the entire comp plan, and that there's been a community voice for one of these properties that was very loud and very clear. And for me, that is enough for me to make a decision.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner Bruce, you had your hand up?
Well, I think my question is if we did a continuance, were we expecting staff to bring something back to us? And if we were, what were they supposed to bring back to us?
It's a very good question.
So I guess I think that leads me to we just need to vote, because I'm not sure if we have the answer to what we would need to be brought back to us.
Yep.
And from a staff, I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't mean to interrupt you. From a staff perspective, you're correct, Commissioner. I don't know necessarily what we could bring to you in addition that might help, although we're open to whatever you may suggest that might help you make a decision. Off the top of my head at 9:45 at night, I'm not sure I can determine what we might bring to you that would help you come to any kind of more solid conclusion.
So it sounds like we should do a condition or not do a condition and just make that our decision for right now.
Do we want to have a condition?
Let's try it out. I'm going to move that we add a condition that the action tonight not include any change to the land use map pending further study.
Second.
Okay, so if I understand, this is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval of the amended comprehensive plan for the Town of Erie with the condition that the text of the comprehensive plan be updated, but not the future land use zoning map at the same time.
And I'm gonna, before the commission deliberates or discusses further, I do want to jump in to look at and say relooking at the approval criteria for the comprehensive plan amendment. It allows the commission to make a recommendation to approve or deny. There's not an express grant to approve conditions as part of a
okay,
approval.
Withdrawn.
All right.
So that was a waste of time.
So this is an approval or denial. So thank you. That's why we have our deputy town attorney here with us. All right. I'm going to ask if there is another motion potentially. We have to do one of them. So one of these is going to have to be motioned.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We got a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Booth, a second by Vice Chair Dreckman. Can I please get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Commissioner Brodus?
No.
Commissioner Leaf?
Yes.
Commissioner Schatz?
Prior to my vote, I just want to note that this is based on the record that is before us, not opinion from the commission. Yes.
You're trying to keep going. Was it yes?
Vice Chair Dreckman?
Yes.
Chair Sawish?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for bearing with us.
Staff reports.
That is the last of our general business items. So we will move now to staff reports.
I have nothing for the commission. Obviously, I'm here without Kelly, so this has been a great first run with you all on my own. So the longest, much like the chair, the longest planning commission I've had in a very long time. So thank you for that. It's always a pleasure to watch you guys work and deliberate. This is a good group of people. So I will stop there because it's late.
All right, I started there, so we'll go. And now we'll go this side. So Commissioner Schatz.
No report.
Commissioner Booth.
No report at this hour.
Commissioner Leaf.
No report. Thank you.
No.
Commissioner Brodus.
No, thank you.
Vice Chair Dreckman. Okay, so we do have the spirit of Commissioner Humpelt with us. He wanted to remind us that the semi-annual security training is due by September 13th. So if you have not done that yet, please do so. I'm one of those who has not done that yet, so I will please do so. So that is all, and I'm going to go with tradition.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And the time is 9:48 p.m., and we are adjourned.